Hey guys, welcome back. This is Snazzy, you all-time favorite. Today we are gonna see, what if Goku joined the X-Men? So let's move on to the video. Somewhere in the Milky Way galaxy, age 737, Earth year, 1984, within the ever-expansive cosmos, there existed 12 known universes. Some believe that 6 others were also created at the beginning of the current multiverse, but due to the actions of its creators, the one above all, and his son, the Omni King, Zeno, they had long since ceased to be. An explanation for their collective destruction had never truly been ascertained. All that could be said about them was that they became corrupted to the point where total erasure was their only hope for salvation. This applied to many individuals affected by the M-Kran crystal and its sudden fracturing by a dark, malevolent entity's hands. Of course, all of these events took place billions upon trillions of years ago. Death and rebirth had always been an endless cycle for any iteration of the present multiverse. Even now, in its 7th version, many cataclysms have brought it upon the cusp of complete, unequivocal annihilation. No planets were safe from the World Devourer, Galactus, and his fellow cosmic deities, the gods of destruction, in fact. However, what most people didn't realize was that the balance between life and death was necessary for the multiverse's continual longevity. For every god of destruction, there needed to be supreme kais and celestials to replace what was previously extinguished. And then, there were angels, led by their father, the Grand Priest, to keep all of those aforementioned parties in check. Each group paled in comparison to the more powerful cosmic deities who served the one above all and the Omni King directly. These abstract entities included the three-headed personification of multiversal law, the living tribunal, eternity, personification of time in the multiverse, his sister Infinity, personification of space in the multiverse, Oblivion, who represented non-existence, and finally, Mistress Death herself. She, above all else, claimed the lives of anyone and everything, including previous versions of the entire multiverse, with there being an infinite amount of timelines and possibilities for each person, place, or thing. Everyone, no matter how powerful or deified, was driven along by the threads of fate. And one planet's unfortunate fate would change the course of the entire multiverse for years to come. It would all begin somewhere in the 7th and most dangerous universe's Milky Way galaxy. This single planet, although originally known as Plant, came to be acknowledged by the new name, Vegeta, after its current ruler and conqueror. This man, King Vegeta III, ruled over a barbarous race of warriors called the Sairs who lived to both fight and kill anyone foolish enough to challenge them. Their actions made them fierce enemies of the Kree, Skrull, Shi'ar, and any other intergalactic empire. Although, one empire chose to profit off their fighting abilities and form a partnership with the Sairs. In exchange for advanced pieces of technology, Xi-Lang warriors took over planets in the name of Lord Frieza and his Planet Trade Organization. They didn't care what empire these planets were previously affiliated with, even if it would generate wide-scale wars between each known species and their alliances. Frieza was far too confident in his own power and intelligence to recognize the Kree, Skrull, or Shi'ar as his equals. He wouldn't stop until their forces had fallen beneath his feet and begged for mercy. He wouldn't grant any of that nonsense, of course, but it'd still be fun for him to hear. The Arcosian Emperor was currently seated in his mothership, sipping on a glass of wine. He was a rather short being with white skin, black horns, and purple armor that had yellow shoulder pads. A long pink and purple tail was wrapped around his seat as he glared out the window with narrowed red eyes. These eyes glinted with nothing short of pure evil intent. He lightly chuckled as one of the Kree's accuser warships was blown to smithereens by one of his own vessels. It was attempting to invade planet Vegeta, which he found rather comical given what he was planning to do to it soon. The Sairs, after all, had become far too dangerous for their own good. There was an actual chance they could overthrow him someday, and he certainly couldn't have something as asinine as that happen. It'd be like a couple of monkeys overthrowing their zookeeper. Ah. How I love a good show. Frieza muttered. As he took another sip from his drink, 2 of his main subordinates entered the room. One was a tall, effeminate man with light blue skin, yellow eyes, and green hair tied down into a braid. The other was a slightly obese alien with purple lips, spikes atop his head, and pink skin. They both bowed down in Frieza's presence as he turned around to address them. Give me a brief update on what's happening out there, Zarbon. Most of the Kree's ships have fled the battlefield, my lord. Captain Marvel managed to destroy a few of our forces, but after a brief skirmish with your brother, Lord Cooler, his current whereabouts are now unknown. The blue-skinned man explained. The Skrulls, however, have evaded our detection thus far. There's no trace of them anywhere. Within the corner of his eye, Frieza could catch the briefest glimpse of a Skrull battleship floating in space. It was incredibly damaged beyond repair, but still somewhat operational, nonetheless. The Arcosian slightly narrowed his eyes. No trace of them. Who? He murmured. Dodoria nodded his head. Yes, sir. We'll try to find them as soon we. Frieza quickly raised his finger and fired a red beam straight through Zaban's heart. He hacked a clump of green blood from his mouth and fell to his knees. No. I gave it away too soon. He then died almost instantly, revealing his true green-skinned appearance. He had very large, elfin ears as well. You bastard, the Skrull disguised as Dodoria growled in pure hatred. Frieza just held a hand over his mouth and guffawed. Aha. You really think I wouldn't recognize the energies of my own men? You pitiful Skrulls really are green. He then tapped the green scouter attached to his ear in a mocking way. Having enough of the evil Emperor's insults, the Skrull raised up his muscular pink arms and charged up a yellowish-orange energy sphere. Ugh! Die, Arcosian scum! He then fired a large energy blast, causing Frieza to effortlessly flip over it and wrap his tail around Dodoria's throat. His lips curled into that of a sadistic sneer. Pray to whatever god you want, but they'll never be able to save you from me, Skrull. Before he could scream in horror, Frieza snapped the Skrull's neck and disposed of his lifeless body like common, everyday trash. Disappointing as always. If they really want to kill me, these fools should consider sending far more men than this. The Emperor sighed. As if it would do them any good, in that moment, the real Zaban and Dodoria appeared. They were covered in the green blood of fallen Skrull soldiers. Lord Frieza! Skrulls have infiltrated the... Frieza raised his hand, signaling for him to stop talking. Yes, I'm already well aware, Zaban. Now, please dispose of this trash for me, will you? He looked down at the two corpses and winced. He had always been repulsed by the sight of those green shapeshifters, more so than his own monstrous true form. Right away, sir. Zaban blasted each of the Skrulls' bodies with a yellow ki blast and disintegrated them within seconds. What now, Lord Frieza? Dodoria asked. The Arcosian prodigy looked out the window of his ship to analyze the surface of planet Vegeta. It was a red planet orbited by 2 yellow moons. The very sight of it disgusted him in more ways than one. After hearing stories about a supposed legendary Super Saiyang that could shine as bright as the sun itself, Frieza knew that the monkeys' days were numbered. It was now time to ensure that none of them would grow powerful enough to stand in his way. I believe that the Sairs have long overstayed their welcome, Dodoria. He scowled. Prepare my transport. I'll let the primitive apes go out in a blaze of glory. Mine, that is. Are you certain about this, sire? They may be uncouth barbarians, but the Sairs have done a lot of good work for the Empire. They could still be a valuable asset. Frieza's purple energy began to surge as he glared back at his commanding officer. Are you questioning my orders, Zaban? Zaban's eyes widened in fear. And not at all, Lord Frieza. I'll prepare it right away. That's what I thought. With that, Zaban and Dodoria ran off to prepare their leader's personal hoverpod. Frieza, continuing to gaze out the window, smiled evilly from ear to ear. As long as those troublesome birds don't intervene, you'll be dancing in hell soon enough, monkeys. Oh ho ho! Outside planet Vegeta's upper atmosphere, Frieza, blitzing through hundreds upon thousands of Planet Trade Organization soldiers, was a low-class Saiyang with black spiky hair named Bardock. He had a prominent scar on his left cheek and wore a red bandana coated with fresh blood. His slightly damaged armor was dark blue with green arm straps and other additional accessories. Red armbands were also wrapped his wrists and knuckles. A blue aura of ki surrounded his body as he soared across space, fighting off soldier after soldier in quick succession. His anger was reaching its absolute breaking point as he continued his rampage. He powerfully slammed his elbow into one soldier's chin and fired a small energy blast at another. Frieza! Come out and fight me, you coward! Bardock screamed. He didn't give much of a damn about the many Kree, Skrull, and Shura vessels floating around in space in that moment. All he really cared about was ensuring the survival of himself, his wife, and their youngest son. "I'm sorry for leaving you alone like this, Jine, but I need to face Frieza by myself. To save everyone we know and love, especially Kakarot." He thought determinedly. Piles of Frieza Force lackeys tried to pull him away from their Emperor-S spaceship, but none of them proved strong enough to stop him. He just kept blasting them away and continued flying onward. "Get out here! I won't let you get away with this." Bardock floated directly in front of the large, saucer-like ship. Upon reaching that particular location, Frieza finally revealed himself. He was seated in his hover pod with a bored, yet calm look on his face. His legion of followers began to shiver in response to his very presence. They never thought he would actually be bold enough to show himself like this. Lord Frieza! Long live Lord Frieza! Bardock, on the other hand, snickered. For many days now, he has seen visions of the distant future. Some detailed the destruction of planet Vegeta by Frieza's hands, while others foretold the almost mutant biology that his son would develop. This supposed mutation, according to what he saw, would prove be the key to defeating Frieza many years later. The Arcosian dictator, after all, was said to be a mutant himself. He didn't want to believe it, but after witnessing the death of his closest friends and comrades by Dodoria, Bardock knew that the Saiyang race was close to reaching its end. "This is it, Frieza! Now, everything is going to change from here on out," the low-class Saiyang muttered. He outstretched his hand, producing a ball of blue ki from it. "Planet Vegeta's fate, my own fate, my son's fate, and even yours. All of it will be decided here." Frieza said nothing in reply. He only raised one of his fingers and generated a tiny orange sphere. "This is where your reign of terror will come to an end, bastard!" Bardock screamed. He then tossed the blue energy sphere in an attempt to kill Frieza once and for all. Unfortunately, fate had other plans for him. The sphere was instantly engulfed by Frieza's supernova technique as it grew to the size of a small orange sun. No way! As it grew larger and larger by the second, Frieza broke out into a crazed fit of uncontrollable laughter. "Aha-ha! Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha!" He then bent his finger and launched the supernova directly at planet Vegeta. Much to Frieza's clear lack of concern, the massive orange ball consumed Bardock and many of the Planet Trade Organization's officers whole. "Lord Frieza!" Why? At that point, Bardock could do nothing else but scream in pain. He fell victim to the supernova's path of destruction and lost the remainder of his armor. His foresight had proven that he would indeed fail to save his home, people, and family from death. Death, however, would not claim every Saiyang's life that day. Sailing through the cold reaches of space, Bardock caught the briefest glimpse of a lone Saiyang pod. This single pod was launched by him and Jine mere moments before he set off to confront Frieza in battle. It was traveling to a distant planet called Earth. It was then Bardock realized that even in failure, Kakarot's survival was still an achievement from his perspective. His mutant son was a light of hope shining down on this cold, desolate universe. He smiled, seeing one last vision of a much older Kakarot facing Frieza on an unknown green planet. He was wearing a strange orange GI with a small X symbol on the corner of his chest. "It's in your hands now, my son. Don't let me, your mother, and the other says die in vain." He ever so slightly reached out his hand to touch the Saiyang pod before being completely eviscerated by the supernova's flaming interior. Kakarot! With no visible trace of Bardock left, Frieza's supernova crashed into planet Vegeta and caused its surface to crack apart into multiple, tiny pieces. Pillars of fire emerged from the planet's core as it was completely blown to smithereens. The Saiyans were now almost completely extinct and Frieza was loving every moment of it. He gazed upon the fiery explosion in sheer, unequivocal delight. "Aha-waha! How wonderful! Look at it, Zarbon and Dodoria! Behold such beautiful fireworks!" He laughed. "Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha!" Zarbon and Dodoria looked out the window in disbelief. They didn't think he'd actually go through with it, yet he did without any hesitation. It served as a good example of what would happen if someone decided to get on Lord Frieza's bad side. They were just relieved to not be part of the Kree, Skrull, or Shi'ar empires. Any enemy of Frieza S was bound to experience a fate worse than death itself, even if, like say Captain Marvel or the Shi'ar Imperial Guard S Gladiator, proved to be fairly powerful in their own right. Somewhere close to planet Vegeta's former location, the Kree and Skrull empires immediately fled upon seeing planet Vegeta be destroyed by a single flick of Frieza's finger. They need to report this catastrophic event to their leaders pronto. Although both of them civilizations were glad to have the Saiyang nuisances out of their hair, Frieza still posed a significant threat to the planets they considered allies. Sooner or later, he might become just as big of a threat as the Mad Titan and known deviant eternal hybrid, Thanos. They both seemed to have an immense fascination with death as a whole. At least, the Shi'ar Imperial fleet was quick to leave as well, but one small ship stayed behind. It resembled that of a green bug with 2 black eyes and equally numbered sets of antennae. 6 red thrusters were also built into it from top to bottom. Operating this ship were 3 Shi'ar soldiers and their current princess, Lilandra Neramani. She was a young, humanoid woman with a head full of black feathers that covered her ears. Her blue eyes contained small black markings that vividly resembled lashes of some sort. She also wore a metallic suit of armor with a long black cape that extended past her back. Her fellow Shi'ar were beginning to panic at the sight of planet Vegeta's untold destruction. They also had feather-like helmets in place of hair. He just destroyed planet Vegeta, Your Majesty. It belonged to his own empire, yet he destroyed it just like that. One of them cried. He couldn't take his eyes away from the absolute carnage taking place before him. He's a madman, I tell you. A madman, Lilandra scowled and shook her head. Although her father, Emperor Neramani, wasn't a saint by any means, even he wouldn't go as far as to indiscriminately slaughter his own subjects. He held far too much respect for life to do something like that. How barbaric. And to think that father wanted to form an alliance with this monster. She rested a hand on her cheek, frowning. She couldn't even begin to imagine how many men, women, and children were killed in that explosion. It made the Shi'ar princess absolutely sick to her stomach. No. This Lord Frieza person has proven to be far worse than that. He is nothing short of pure evil incarnate, even when compared to the brutal warriors the Sairs once were. It fills me with dread thinking what he could do to Chandler and the rest of our people. Don't think that way, Your Majesty. Surely Frieza would pale in comparison to Gladiator and other members of the Imperial Guard, correct? Another Shi'ar soldier insisted. Lilandra bit her lower lip in uncertainty. You may be right, but given what we just witnessed, she said while glaring over at the remains of planet Vegeta, or lack thereof. There's no guarantee that Frieza and his Planet Trade Organization can even be beaten. Not anytime soon, at least. She then spotted something darting across space at faster than average speeds. It appeared to have left the planet before it exploded. Commander, what is that small object flying in the distance? Lilandra asked. I'm not sure, Princess. Let us get a closer look. The Shi'ar commander typed some command into their ship's computer and zoomed in. It was a small grey pod surrounded by blue flames. I see. It appears to be a common Frieza Force attack ball. He replied. From within the pod's red glass, he saw a Saiyang toddler sitting inside of it. And it looks like a Saiyang child is operating it. Lilandra's blue eyes slightly widened. She knew that weaker Sairs were shipped off to different planets upon being born, but she didn't expect one to be launched so soon after planet Vegeta's recent annihilation. A child? I had a feeling that Prince Vegeta may have survived his people's extinction, but not anyone else. She thought, getting a closer look at the child's monkey tail and other basic characteristics. Judging by his black, spiky hair, this boy is a low-class Saiyang. His chances of survival are much lower than an elite S would be. Should we do something about it, Your Majesty? A Saiyang child would make a fine addition to the Shi'ar Empire. I'm sure your father and siblings would agree. The youngest child of Emperor Neramani paused for a moment. Given how brutally violent her brother, D-Ken, and sister, Kal Sai, were becoming, she didn't want to risk either of them having a potential Saiyang warrior under their control. It was best that they let the attack ball travel to its intended destination. No. Just leave the Saiyang be. We can't risk Frieza catching wind of its presence and our own. As you wish. Shall we head back to the throne world then, Lilandra? The Shi'ar princess nodded her head. Yes. Father is probably wondering where we are. Before Frieza could spot them, their battleship sped away using a pink streak of energy that was released from all 6 thrusters. Lilandra gave one last look at the Saiyang boy as he flew in the opposite direction. Poor child. You must be all alone at this point. She thought sympathetically. I wonder where you could be going. She then closed her eyes and held a firm hand over her chest. Somehow, someway, Lilandra hoped the boy would be able to overcome this sorrowful moment and continue to live on. May the gods bring light upon your journey, young Saiyang. As they parted ways, a single red bandana limply floated throughout the cosmos. Earth, age 737, year 1984. Hours later, Kakarot S pod flew down to Earth's upper atmosphere. It was a planet mostly covered in water and 7 known pieces of land called continents. It didn't look like much at first glance, but Earth was home to a slew of supernatural, extraterrestrial, and superpowered individuals. A wide majority of these individuals were born with a unique gene that bestowed upon them with either powerful abilities or physical mutations. This supposed X gene, originating from the actions of celestials millions of years ago, was what flowed through Kakarot's veins as well. Some Sairs, surprisingly enough, were born the same way, but only a select few. The pod headed in the direction of Earth's lowest and coldest continent, Antarctica. It burned upon first contact, gaining more and more speed until it crashed into this white continent's uppermost tip. There, a savage land far different from the rest of the world in terms of both flora and fauna presided. Kakarot's sudden arrival to Earth, however, wasn't entirely unknown. Off the coast of another continent called North America, a massive hovercraft filled with jets and other advanced weaponry floated high above the clouds. This helicarrier housed 4 identical jet boosters that kept it in flight. It was primarily operated by a top-secret, government-run agency called the Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, or SHIELD for short. Their main purpose was to uphold international security and protect the world from any superhuman threats that may emerge. Leading this agency was its current director, Colonel Nicholas Joseph Fury. He was a middle-aged man with brown skin and a black beard wrapped around his chin. He also wore a black trench coat that matched the single eye patch placed over his left eye. It had been badly scarred during his prior service to the United States military. Fury kept both arms crossed behind his back in dismay. One of their many satellites just detected a small grey vessel crashing down somewhere in Antarctica. He scowled at the screen and directly addressed his fellow SHIELD operatives. Anyone mind telling me what the actual hell is that? We don't know, sir. It just came from somewhere in outer space. A female agent replied. Must be another extraterrestrial life form, if I were to guess. Fury snorted. Well, I figured that much. Just tell me where it's landing. Right away, Director Fury. She typed some commands into her keyboard and tracked the spacecraft's path. Bringing up a 3D map of the entire globe, Fury was able to see it land on the South Pole's furthest point. He narrowed his eyes in recognition. HMPH. The savage land. Isn't that the place filled with dinosaurs and other prehistoric life? A male agent asked. The very same. Truly a marvel of modern technology, isn't it? Fury said with a smirk. Should we send a team to retrieve the space pod and find out what's inside of it? Fury cupped his chin in thought. He doubted that one single craft would be much of a threat to Earth and its people. If anything, the dinosaurs and whatever magical mumbo-jumbo existed on the savage land would kill it before such an event could take place. No need. Just leave whatever that is be. But, sir, don't make me repeat myself. Coulson. Until it actually proves itself to be a worthwhile opponent on Captain America or the Hulk's level, leave the alien be. Fury ordered. We'll keep tabs on it periodically from there. Agent Phil Coulson begrudgingly nodded in agreement. He didn't believe this alien creature could match Captain America, his childhood hero, in terms strength or character either. Although, there was a chance that both of them could be wrong. Sounds reasonable enough, sir. Fury nodded. Now, let us head back home. There's other work that needs to be done today. The helicarrier's computer monitor then changed from footage of the attack ball to something else. Although its existence was known, no one in SHIELD drew too much attention to it. That would certainly change in the years to come, though. Within the savage land, this small part of Antarctica was much warmer than the rest of it. Rather than being covered in ice and snow, the savage land was filled tropical jungles where multiple species of dinosaurs roamed. These varied from the terrifying Tyrannosaurus rex to the pteranodons and pterodactyls that flew across the skies in search of food. Some humans also took up residence here, but their numbers were significantly lower by comparison. One of these humans lived in the savage land's largest mountain and active volcano, Mount Paozu. It contained a series of mountain ranges where dinosaurs and even monsters particularly thrived. To keep himself safe from harm, an old martial artist, Gohan, lived in a small hut somewhere near Paozu's bamboo forests. He had chosen to isolate himself from the rest of the world many years prior, much to the ire of his closest friends and former mentor, Master Roshi. Son Gohan was a short elderly man with a white bushy mustache. He had a green beanie atop his bald head and wore an orange-yellow gi with long black sleeves. Attached to his back was a brown basket that he used to gather fruits, vegetables, and other supplies. He also used a red staff to help him hike at a more even pace. "Whew! It sure is hot today," he sighed. While wiping some sweat off his brow, he heard a loud crash come from some nearby area. It shook the entire mountain from side to side and almost knocked him off his feet. What in the world was that? Gohan went to investigate the source of this crash and, surprisingly, found a large grey ball. It was contained within a rather deep crater. "That's strange," he muttered. Using his key, the old man hopped down into the crater to analyze the ball in greater detail. It suddenly popped open to reveal a young, naked boy seated inside. "Oh my goodness! It's a little boy." The boy crawled out of his damaged pod and, out of fear, began to burst into tears. He didn't know where his mom and dad were. "Water? Water? Oh, don't cry, little fella. It's okay." Gohan cooed. He grabbed the young boy and held him up with his hands. He was surprised to see a monkey tail hang down from his backside. Hee. What do you know? You have a tail." The old martial artist chuckled. "You must not be from around here, huh?" The monkey-tailed boy sniffled and began gradually to calm down in Gohan's presence. "You seem like a strange little guy, but don't worry. I'm a little odd myself, believe it or not," he muttered in amusement. "I'd have to be to live in a scary place like this." Hee. Little by little, the boy's sadness was replaced by growing happiness. He kicked Gohan in the face and began to giggle in a much more cheerful manner. "Oh, you're a little stinker, aren't you? Goodness. You should take it easy on me. I'm old enough to be your grandpa, you know?" Gohan grumbled while rubbing his stricken jaw. He then smiled at the young boy. Being a grandpa didn't sound all that bad, actually. "Now, let us see. What should I call you?" The old martial artist thought for a moment or two before, finally, coming up with a good name for this kid. "Yes. I think I know what to call you. How about I name you a Goku?" The newly named Goku broke out into a fit of laughter just hearing this name. "Ha ha ha. Oh, you like that, who? All right then. Son Goku, it is. Woo-hoo." Gohan laughed as he bounced his adoptive grandson up and down. "Goku. Hee. What a good little boy." From that point onward, the son of Bardock and Jine would no longer be called Kakarot. He was now Son Goku, a boy who had many adventures and experiences in store for him. He did just need to survive the savage land first. Approximately 6 years later, Goku and his new grandfather, Gohan, didn't get along at first. Due to being a Saiyang, the toddler was unruly and violent by nature. He would hit, bite, and kick the old man many times, even when doing something as simple as taking a bath. The only time he did go back to his cheerful self was when they ate food together. He seemed to have the biggest appetite Gohan had ever seen up until that point. Whether it be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, Goku was always hungry for more. Gohan considered asking for some assistance from Master Roshi and his fellow Turtle School of Martial Arts student, Ox King, but ended up changing his mind. It wouldn't feel right to thrust this kind of responsibility on them, especially after living in the savage land for so long. Thankfully, everything began to change one day. After picking a fight with some wild pterodactyls, Goku fell off of a ravine and slammed his head into some rocks. This brought him into a comatose state that Gohan was afraid he wouldn't wake up from. He covered the boy's head in bandages and prayed to whatever god was out there to save him. To his relief, his prayers were heard. Goku woke up and became the complete opposite of what he used to be. He was goofy, affectionate, and absent-minded, yet still kept his love for fighting and food, nonetheless. The trauma from that accident must have erased all of his violent impulses somehow, and Gohan couldn't be happier with the results. Goku was now the best grandson he could ever wish for. For that reason, Gohan decided to pass on his martial arts techniques to Goku. He had a knack for fighting tough opponents by default, so teaching him self-defense was logical from his perspective. After all, there was a chance that they'd need to fight off dinosaurs and man-apes sometime soon. They couldn't stay on Mount Paozu forever. They trained for years and years on end until Goku turned 6 years old. As expected, he proved to be a natural at martial arts and, at this rate, would be able to surpass his own grandfather one day. This made Gohan decide to amp up Goku's training to the next level. What's next, Grandpa? Are we going to punch some big yummy fish again? He beamed. The boy was now wearing a blue gi tied down by a white sash. His shoes were almost identical to Gohan's in regard to style. Gohan looked up at the sky. It would be nighttime very soon, so they'd need to finish their training session as soon as possible. Maybe tomorrow, Goku. We'll need to get ready for bed soon. Goku slumped his shoulders in disappointment. Really? Oh, man. I was really looking forward to that. Tell you what. How about I show you a very strong technique that my old master, Roshi, taught me? Would you like that? The monkey-tailed boy pumped his fist in newfound excitement and giddiness. Hee. You bet, Gramps. Let me see it. Let me see it. Gohan chuckled and said, all right. Pay close attention now, Goku. Taking a deep breath, the old man squatted down and cupped both of his hands together. He positioned himself in front of a nearby tree. Ka-mi, a blue and white sphere of ki materialized between Gohan's hands. It grew larger and more chaotic with each subsequent syllable. Ha-mi, the ki sphere spun around and produced multiple beams of light from it. Ha-ah! Gohan outstretched his arms and unleashed a giant, powerful blue energy blast. It incinerated a few trees upon impact before dissolving. Its wielder took another deep breath and stood up straight. Goku was absolutely blown away by the move he just saw. Wow! That's awesome! What is it called? That was the Kamehameha wave, or Turtle Devastation wave if going by the original name. It is a ki blast invented by my old martial arts instructor and friend, Master Roshi. His grandfather explained. He then smiled from ear to ear. He taught it to me and now, I will be teaching it you, my boy. Seriously? That's so cool. Can I try it out now, Grandpa? Please? Well, don't be getting too ahead of yourself. It takes 50 years of hard work and dedication to learn. Ignoring what his grandpa had to say, Goku cupped his hands together and perfectly copied the old man's stance. Ka-mi-ha-mi, he muttered. Much to Gohan's shock, a small sphere of ki emerged in the center of his palms. Ha! Goku fired his own Kamehameha wave at another tree. Although not as powerful, it still incinerated the bamboo stalk instantly. The Saiyang peered down at his hands and smiled. Hey, look at that! I did it! He beamed. It wasn't as good as yours, though. Gohan blinked a few times in disbelief. What the 6-year-old boy displayed was nothing short of astounding, from his perspective. No kid his age could ever dream of using such an advanced technique. Was that some sort of mimicry Goku just displayed? Who? Apparently, the boy is much smarter than I give him credit for. Smiling from ear to ear, he walked over to the boy and proudly patted him on the back. Excellent progress, Goku. You'll be a master at using the Kamehameha wave in no time. You really think so? Goku replied in a hopeful tone. You're my grandson. Of course, I do. The old man warmly proclaimed. Now, let us head off to bed and get some shut-eye. We can continue training tomorrow. All right then. The two then entered their hut without another word. It was a small square building with a blue triangular roof and white walls. Inside, there was a bunk bed and a few tables. One of these tables had an orange ball with 4 red stars on it. Goku looked at the strange ball in curiosity. It rested on top of a small purple pillow as he examined it from left to right and top to bottom. "Hey, Grandpa! Why do you keep this funny-looking ball around? Does it mean something?" "That isn't just any funny-looking ball, Goku. It's a Dragon Ball." Gohan corrected him. Goku titled his head to the side, looking more confused. "Dragon Ball? MMHM legends say that if you collect all 7 Dragon Balls, an eternal dragon named Shenron will come and grant any wish you desire. I, sadly, only have the 4-star ball, but it's still nice to have, regardless." Cool." Goku hummed in growing interest. He then turned his head to look up at the old martial artist. "What would you wish for, Grandpa?" Gohan just smiled and ruffled his grandson's hair in response. "I already have everything I could ever wish for, my boy. There's nothing better than being here with you." The young Saiyang rubbed the back of his head in slight embarrassment. He. I guess that makes sense." With that last statement, they both piled into their respective beds. Goku laid down at the bottom while Grandpa Gohan slept at the top. "Good night, kiddo. Don't stay up too late, okay? I want tea." "Good night, Grandpa." They then drifted off to sleep and stayed that way for a good few hours. Goku's rumbling stomach, however, wasted no time in waking him up. He rubbed the sleep out of his eyes and yawned. "I'm hungry again." Tiptoeing out of the hut as quietly as possible, Goku left to pick some apples from a nearby tree. He munched on a few of them before being interrupted by the sight of the moon. It was completely full that night, taking him a little by surprise. He didn't even know it could look like that until now. "Wow! I've never seen the moon look so big before." Goku abruptly dropped his apples and continued gazing up at the moon. His heart began to relentlessly beat against his chest. Ba-dump, 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 ba-dump. Eyes glowing a blood red, Goku's small body slowly transformed into that of a gigantic monkey with razor-sharp teeth. He towered over Mount Paozu's entire forest and roared in pure, unbridled rage. Grrrah! Gohan woke up to a start hearing this terrifying roar. He looked down to see that Goku was no longer in his bed. Goku! Quickly grabbing the power pole, he jumped out of bed and ran outside. He was shocked to see a giant monster standing before him. It went on an absolute rampage and used its fists to smash everything in sight. Grrrah! Grrrah! Gohan saw the monster's long tail and immediately knew who it was. He looked from Goku to the full moon in absolute horror. "Oh no! You transformed because of the full moon, didn't you, Goku?" Baring his teeth, the transformed Goku attempted to flatten the old man with a swift punch. Gohan immediately thought fast and stuck his staff into the ground. "Power pole, extend!" Upon command, the power pole grew in size and sent Gohan soaring into the air. This allowed him to evade the great ape's fist, much to his visible irritation. Grog! Gohan somersaulted from where the power pole flung him and cupped his hands together in midair. He didn't wish to use this technique on Goku, but there was no other way to stop him. Kamehameha! The old man quickly charged up the Kamehameha wave and fired it at Goku's face. HAA! This caused the transformed Saiyang to stomp around and clutch his red eyes in utter pain. Large craters in the ground were produced from every step he took. Grah! Grah! Landing on his feet, Gohan stood in a fighting stance. He darted his eyes toward Goku's tail in sudden realization. His tail! It must be the cause of this transformation, the old man thought. I need to get rid of it fast. He coated one of his hands in white ki and sped over to Goku's tail using instantaneous movement. Right as he was about to chop the monkey tail in two, Goku smacked him aside with it. Gah! No! Gohan painfully crashed into the ground with a firm smack. His frail body, despite being stronger than the average human was broken beyond foreseeable repair. He didn't even have the strength to stand back up. I'm sorry, Goku. I tried my best to stop this. I really did. The old man groaned with tears in his eyes. Goku then hovered over his fallen form and raised up his leg, snarling. Even in the face of imminent death, Gohan could only smile through the pain. Continue to grow stronger, Goku. Don't blame yourself for what happened here either. It wasn't your fault. He whispered. The last thing he saw was the shadow of Goku's foot coming closer to him. "Goodbye, my boy. I love you." He was then crushed to death by the supreme force of Goku's stomp. Thankfully, his body mysteriously disappeared before any more pain could be felt. Some unknown force must have retrieved him in time. Oblivious to what just happened, Great Ape Goku beat on his chest and fired a powerful energy blast from his mouth. It caused a distant mountain to explode into millions of tiny pieces. Grah! His monstrous roars could be heard for miles across the entire savage land. However, rather than rage, these last few hours were laced with sorrow and remorse. The transformed Goku wasn't sentient enough to understand why, though. He raged for another few hours or so, causing untold amounts of destruction in his wake. No one dared go near Mount Paozu that entire night and instead attempted to sleep through it. Some of the man-apes, primitive Neanderthals native to this part of Antarctica, even bowed down to Goku as if he were their god. This, however, ended once the sun rose. Goku transformed back to his normal self and, with absolutely no clothes on his body, fell unconscious. His actions, unbeknownst to him or anyone else, were observed by a strong, ethereal entity. This entity was a young adult woman wearing a black hood and robes. Her skin was a ghostly pale with shoulder-length black hair that matched her outfit. Her lips were also a dark shade that contrasted well with her orangish, almost grey eyes. With each movement, she changed in and out of a more haunting skeletal form. She went by many names, but her most well-known identity was Mistress Death, Sister of Infinity, Eternity, and Oblivion. Death, the Dark Beauty herself, hovered over to Goku's unconscious form. She frowned at his innocent, yet peaceful expression. "I'm sorry for taking away your grandfather like this, young son Goku," she murmured in an ominous voice. Such a happy, pure child, yet forced to experience so much loss and hardship. "It doesn't bring me much joy to see you go through this." She pointed toward the boy and put him in a fresh pair of clothes. She then gently picked him up, brushing his black bangs to the side with a small grin. "But fret not. Your perseverance and strength as a warrior will undoubtedly be rewarded someday," Mistress Death promised. "I've viewed many a timeline where you exist. You'll become quite a powerful man amongst this world's past and future heroes, I assure you." The immortal deity entered Grandpa Gohan's hut and gently placed Goku back into his bed. After tucking him underneath the covers, she rested a cold hand over his cheek. "It's a shame that I can't claim you now, but sadly, it is not your time yet. You have much more experiences and challenges to go through before we can meet face to face." She parted her hand from his cheek and let him sleep in relative peace. Death then floated over to the hut's doorway, grinning at Goku one last time. "Until we meet again, Sai Yang of Earth." She then transported herself away using a field of blue cosmic energy. Until the time was right, Death would wait as long as it took for her chosen champion to grow stronger. Whether he would prove to be equal in strength to her other suitor, Thanos, was yet to be determined. Several hours later, by the late afternoon, Goku had awoken from his slumber. He fluttered his eyes open and gently rubbed his cheek. It felt cold to the touch for some reason. "Did I sleep on some ice or something?" he muttered in confusion. "Hey, Grandpa, does it feel cold too?" Goku looked up to see that no one was sleeping in the bed above him. He felt even more confused now. "Grandpa?" He got up and looked around their hut, but no trace of the old man could be found. He then walked outside and saw countless amounts of damage everywhere. Bamboo stalks were completely uprooted from the ground, mountains were split in half, and the ground beneath his feet was almost cracked to pieces. Whoa! What the heck happened here? He cautiously stepped forward to get a closer look at Mount Paozu's current condition. Set atop the ground was Gohan's power pole, which remained in perfect condition. The power pole, but that means this damage was from. Goku's eyes began to water as he assumed that some dinosaur came and ate his grandpa or worse. That would explain the massive footprints and cracks in the mountain's surface. No. "Where are you, Grandpa? Where do you go?" Not wishing to believe that his only family member was gone, Goku sprinted towards the edge of Mount Paozu and cupped both hands around his mouth. "Grandpa!" he yelled at the top of his lungs. Unfortunately, no one replied. Apart from other people and creatures living in the savage land, Goku was now completely alone. He wiped his tears and sniffled. Since Gohan wouldn't want him to give up hope like this, he took a deep breath and wrapped the power pole-less holster around his shoulder. I won't forget what you told me, Grandpa. I promise I'll get stronger. He croaked under his breath. I'll make you proud wherever you may be. After making that last proclamation, the 6-year-old boy walked back inside and kneeled in front of the 4-star Dragon Ball. He rested both hands in front of him and prayed for his grandpa's safety. He would still continue to think about him and his martial arts instructions, even if Gohan himself wasn't around anymore. Westchester County, New York, age 743, year 1990. Located in the town of North Salem, a large, castle-like mansion presided. It contained a fancy lawn, pool, garden, and many other accommodations that cost quite a ton of money. It appeared to be just like any other home, but eventually, within a few years, this building would be transformed into a school for young mutant children called the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters. Mutants were a fairly marginalized group in today's age, so this school would help provide a home for these troubled kids while also working to improve relations between Homo sapiens and Homo superior. However, it was not time for it to become that place yet. For now, only one mutant lived inside the mansion. This mutant, Professor Charles Xavier, was a gifted geneticist and telepath. He was a bald man in his early 40s wearing a green suit and brown undershirt. Although fairly tall, he spent most of his time confined to a single grey wheelchair. Due to inheriting quite a sizable fortune from his family, Xavier used his money to purchase and fund technologically advanced devices. The device he personally took pride in was Cerebro, a helmet that amplified its user's brainwaves to a point where mutants could be detected across the entire globe. This relied on either the energy produced from their superhuman abilities or respective X gene. This helmet was concealed in a large chamber underneath the mansion. Xavier was currently in the process of using it. It wrapped around his head and tapped into his underlying telepathic powers. So many mutants, yet so much in a turmoil. It's a shame that the world has yet to accept us. He thought internally. To his chagrin, he could hear the screams of certain mutant children being abused or mistreated by common, everyday people. It always amazed him how cruel humanity could be in the face of change. Suddenly, he heard the loud, guttural roar of a particularly powerful mutant. His eyes widened in surprise. What on earth? I've never sensed this mutant specimen before. He, with a bitter struggle, focused his mind to track the mutant's current whereabouts. It was located in the Savage Land of all places. The Savage Land? That's where Gohan disappeared to all those years ago. His friendship with the old martial artist was unconventional, yet genuine all the same. They went on a few brief adventures together during his temporary stay in Japan. Gohan was certainly a powerful fighter, but not a mutant by any means. That meant this unknown mutant must have arrived in Antarctica between now and the very moment Gohan left to live there. Was it born there? Or perhaps, did it arrive in the Savage Land from someplace foreign to Earth? He had no idea which option to consider. Taking a deep breath, Professor Xavier removed Cerebro from his head and began to think. It still wasn't quite time to locate mutants who could join his team, but this presence did raise a few concerns. He rummaged through his pocket and pulled out a Dragon Ball with 6 stars on it. He studied the magical orange ball with his brown eyes. I just hope that whatever events transpired in the Savage Land today, they don't affect Gohan's promise to keep the 4-star ball safe. Xavier grimaced in worry. There's no telling what Magnus is planning to do once he collects all 7. His grimace deepened in vivid remembrance of his former friend and ally. He was somewhat relieved that Magnus Eisenhardt, now going under the sinister alias, Magneto, did not have a way to locate the Dragon Balls like Cerebro did with mutants. The world would be in great danger if such a device came into existence. He rubbed a hand over his chin and put the Dragon Ball away. It may take a few more years of preparation, but one day, I'll need to investigate this new mutant specimen. I'll need to form more connections and partnerships beforehand, though. Xavier activated his automatic wheelchair and rolled out of Cerebro's containment chamber. 2 revolving doors with a large X symbol on it closed behind him. Will that be enough to stop Magneto from accomplishing his goals? That question, I suppose, will need to be answered at a later date. He then narrowed his eyes and expressed his broad hopes for the future of mutant kind. When that day comes, it'll be the job of my future X-Men to stop him. Westchester County, New York, age 749, year, 1996, it changed into now September 1st, 1996. 6 long years have handed in view that Professor Charles Xavier detected a mutant hidden inside the savage land. Ever on account that day, the wheelchair-bound researcher has continually used Cerebro to find different mutants who should show feasible to his motive. One terrific example was Jean Elaine Gray, a younger red-headed woman with telepathic competences that exceeded even his personal. Jean's dad and mom asked him to assist her returned in 1994, however because of how extremely powerful and unstable her telekinesis proved to be, Xavier became pressured to suppress them until she became more mature. Something otherworldly in nature changed into stirring within the girl's thoughts, but Xavier could not precisely parent who or what it became. He would want to parent it out as soon as he contacted Jean again sometime this year. Different mutants that the professor came throughout were an orphan boy residing on the state home for foundlings, a younger Kenyan lady he encountered in Cairo 6 years ago, a talented biochemist and athlete with larger-than-common feet, and lots of more. Those human beings each had the ability essential to join his future crew of superhumans, the X-Men. They might be needed to forestall Magneto and his plans for global domination, in particular because of what number of fans he has collected during the last few years. Xavier would have tried to form this team earlier, however he did not have the assets and connections essential to do so. The primary component he needed to do was refine Cerebro's simple capabilities with Moira MacTaggart, its Scottish co-author and his former fiancée. At some point of their time as students at Oxford University, they had been deeply in love with every other. However, due to unfortunate circumstances, she needed to stop their engagement. They nonetheless, but remained on proper enough terms to formally observe the Xavier Institute for Gifted Children together. She provided technological help via her Mutant Studies Centre on Muir Island, Scotland. Additional assist turned into acquired by using Dr. Brief, a fantastic Eastern scientist who served as legitimate CEO for his enterprise, Pill employer. His talent as an inventor and businessman made him one of the richest people on the whole planet next to Tony Stark and Norman Osborn. Due to having pro-mutant views, Brief became glad to construct a high-tech facility called the Danger Room wherein young mutants could hone and teach their respective talents. It turned into, as its name implemented, extraordinarily risky, but the outcomes greatly inspired Xavier, despite the fact that what impressed the professor even more turned into Dr. Brief's youngest daughter, Bulma. Even though surprisingly useless and hot-headed like many different women her age, she had a thoughts arguably larger than her father's. This granted her the intelligence essential to design a dragon radar, which can tune the Dragon Ball's current places international. It became the final step he needed to convey his plans into fruition. As quickly as Bulma's summertime holiday from excessive college had all started, Xavier contacted Dr. Quick and requested her to return visit him in Big Apple. She had continually wanted to discover the US, so convincing her, happily, did not take tons effort. Using one of the hovercrafts contained in Capsule Corp's trademark Hoi Poi capsules, Bulma flew over to the X mansion right now. She changed into a 16 years vintage girl with light blue hair tied up into a braid. Tied down via a red bow, she also had large blue eyes of the equal coloration. Her outfit constituted of a pink scarf wrapped round her neck, a red dress that prolonged just beneath the waist, red socks, blue footwear, and a brown belt. Written inside the middle of her blouse turned into Bulma in bold black and white lettering. "Welp, this looks as if the vicinity," Bulma said. She then introduced out a dino cap and sealed the hovercraft again interior of it in a huge puff of smoke. After stuffing the small capsule into her satchel, Bulma cautiously walked over to the mansion's front door. TCH. If Dad wasn't so cheap, he may want to have offered a place as pleasant as this, after which some she muttered earlier than lightly knocking her hand on the door and talking in near ideal English. "Professor Xavier? Are you in there?" "It is me, Bulma." "Yes, I'm Ms. Short. You are available in, please." Listening to the Englishman's voice, Bulma driven open the mansion's door and entered it. It was pretty massive at the interior, such as the whole lot from a chandelier, couches, chairs, and an ornate fireplace. There had been additionally numerous shelves full of what seemed like loads of books and research documents. She regarded from left to right with a light grin on her face. Fancy Bulma then directed her interest to Professor Xavier. Now around the age of 47, he was carrying a grey coat over a black turtleneck shirt. He smiled at the teenage inventor and moved his wheelchair in the direction of her. "Welcome to my mansion. Your father has told me a lot, approximately you." She snorted in response. "Oh, I'm sure he has. Bet he went on a tangent approximately me skipping school all of the time, huh?" "Ha ha. Yes. That could have come up in communique a few times." Xavier chuckled. "However, all jokes aside, you have to be pleased with what you've constructed at one of these younger age. Your intellect may additionally even rival Tony Stark's one day." "Thank you for the compliments, Professor, however I'm nowhere close to that Iron Man-man's stage." "No longer yet, at the least," Bulma muttered in slight embarrassment. She would not admit it to everybody, however, ever due to the fact Tony Stark, CEO of Stark Industries, discovered himself to be the armored superhero, Iron Guy, he had grown to be truly of a private idol her. It didn't help that she used to have a small crush on him at some stage in earlier points of her youth. Xavier smirked at the mind going through her head. Despite her enormously talented thoughts, she becomes still simply an regular teenage girl. But wasn't he a mutant, an awful lot to his ever so mild unhappiness? Regardless, I'm nevertheless quite intrigued by means of the inventions you've made. Do you thoughts if I take a closer examine that dragon radar of yours? Positive. Pass in advance. Bulma rummaged through her bag and pulled out a huge, stopwatch-like device. It turned into white with a round green map positioned inside the center. There was additionally a large button positioned on top. She exceeded it over, so the professor may want to investigate it. Millimeter, simple, yet intuitive layout. How does it work exactly? Xavier asked. Bulma pointed to the top of the dragon radar. It is actually as simple because it seems, Professor. You simply press that button a few instances and the dragon balls have to seem on screen. I see. With a single press of his finger, 7 orange lighting flickered to the sound of a noisy beeping noise. One of the lights was in step with the mansion's south present-day place, displaying that Bulma's invention did indeed paintings. He then pulled out his 6 big-name dragon ball and grimaced. He has nevertheless held onto it in spite of everything those years. It's ingenious, but pretty dangerous at the identical time. There's no telling what Magnus may want to do with this type of tool in his possession. Thankfully, as of now, Miss Short has the handiest copy in life. Temporarily maintaining the one's thoughts at bay, Xavier surpassed the Dragon radar, returned to Capsule Corp SRS. Outstanding work, Bulma. This could sincerely make our search for the Dragon Balls plenty easier than expected. No longer to sound impolite, Professor, but what precisely do you want with the Dragon Balls, anyway? Don't you already have enough stuff as is? The female asked while gesturing to everything in Xavier's mansion. Fair query. It's something a piece nobler than wishing for a lifetime deliver of strawberries or the precise boyfriend, I guarantee you. Bulma jumped up and blanketed her mouth in surprising embarrassment. Her cheeks flushed a vivid pink. Eep. How did you? If I'm a telepath, Ms. Short. Analyzing minds is what I and other mutants like myself do high quality. Xavier responded. Oh proper. I nearly forgot that Dad said you had been one in every of those guys. The girl muttered. She then waved both arms in the front of her body, assuming that Xavier took what she stated the wrong way. And not that there's whatever incorrect with that, though. I am getting in conjunction with almost absolutely everyone. Xavier nodded his head in understanding. I didn't declare in any other case, Bulma. Your father has supported equality among mutants and humans for decades now. It is the primary reason why I selected you to accompany me in this journey of mine. And what kind of adventure might that be? The professor clasped his palms together and held them in the front of his mouth. He commenced to ruminate over events that took place sometimes between the years 1989 and 1990. You could now not be aware of this, my pricey, however there exist some mutants who view this international with utter disdain and vitriol. They've grown to resent the unfairness directed towards their natural-born gifts and thus have given up on living in peace, altogether. He explained. Those mutants determined to devote evil actions that in addition degrade family members among my human beings and yours. He closed his eyes and sighed. It turned into hard to bear in mind the days whilst he ought to nonetheless stroll, even years after the preliminary incident passed off. One such evil mutant was a man named Amal Farouk, whom I first encountered in Cairo, Egypt 7 years in the past. His telepathic skills were so unspeakably dark and twisted that I got here to realize how dangerous mutant abilities can be in the wrong hands. Xavier grimaced in short-term disgust. From there, I have decided to deliver mankind and its mutant children together as a group, one that could defend all of humanity from sinister beings like Farouk, or as other humans have come to know him, the Shadow King. He then opened his eyes and narrowed them with the maximum dedication. They'll be referred to as my X-Guys. Bulma raised an eyebrow at this name. X-Men, he? That sounds all well and precise on paper. However, what does this idea ought to do with the Dragon Balls? There exists any other mutant simply as dangerous as the Shadow King, I'm afraid. He was an vintage friend and colleague of mine earlier than his hatred for humanity fed on him. Xavier darkly proclaimed. As soon as called Max Eisenhardt, or Magnus to most people he interacted with, he has lengthy given that dubbed himself Magneto, and plans to use the Dragon Balls to perform his goal of making mutants the dominant species in the world. Dominant species? How would he do this? Remaining time I checked, mutants have been taken into consideration a minority in maximum places around the world, especially Japan. Recall, according to legend, the Dragon Balls can furnish any desire a person desires. And what Magneto dreams is to want for anyone to emerge as mutants, despite the fact that it's far in opposition to their will. Xavier unveiled with a concerned look on his face. If we don't prevent him, mutants will become the majority and the whole human race as we comprehend it will stop to exist. Wow, this Magneto dude is taking mutant supremacy to an entire different degree then. Bulma gulped. Her light face contorted into one in every of growing confusion. Is it even viable for billions of human beings to alternate into mutants just like that? Xavier rested a give up his chin in idea. I'm not absolutely certain, but we cannot come up with the money for to take any probabilities. Magneto has probably accrued a group of fans to support his motive, so I have to do the identical. He exclaimed. You have one of the Dragon Balls with you, correct? Bulma reached into her bag and pulled out any other Dragon Ball. This one had 2 red stars on it. Yep. I discovered the 2 Megastar Ball in Pil Corp's basement some days in the past. Tremendous. Then it is time for us to visit an antique friend of mine in Antarctica, Ms. Brief. He has the 4 Celebrity Ball in his ownership. She driven the Dragon Radar S button a few times until an orange mild regarded close to the Sector S southernmost point. You are proper. The radar says it's south far round that place. She affirmed with a dramatic sigh. I simply want it could have been positioned someplace hotter. I hate the cold at the opposite. The part of Antarctica we'll be journeying is a tropical surroundings packed with various bushes and dinosaurs. It is referred to as the Savage Island and my buddy, Gohan, has lived there for almost 12 years. Bulma, satirically, shivered in reaction to this description. He had been quite crazy to willingly stay amongst dinosaurs for that long. I would not have even lasted an afternoon. Xavier laughed. Ha ha. You could say that, sure. Gohan become pretty an eccentric character, but an exceedingly gifted martial artist, all of the identical. His fighting capabilities have been stated to rival the Hand's strongest members. Yeesh. If it truly is the case, then he should still be alive and kicking through now, Bulma assumed, given what she's heard approximately Japan's maximum notorious crime syndicate. They made the Yakuza appearance harmless by way of contrast. I knew that to be the case, Bulma. Xavier muttered. What do you imply? Did something happen to him? I do not know. All I realize is that 6 years ago, I detected an immensely powerful mutant coming from Mount Paozu, the Savage Island's largest mountain variety. It set free a loud roar before vanishing just as fast as it emerged. The professor recalled. Gohan chose to stay inside Paozu, so his life might have been in stalled hazard that day. Bulma positioned herself next to Xavier and gently patted him at the shoulder. "Guess all we will do is pass there and notice for ourselves, Professor." He gently nodded his head. "I suppose you are right. We ought to leave at once. Do you recognize the way to get to this Savage Land location or whatever?" she questioned. "Of direction, Bulma. I have been there some instances myself. There are a chain of tunnels leading to the Savage Land beneath Antarctica. I'll lead you to them." "Sounds exact, however what approximately your aim?" she faltered whilst awkwardly gesturing towards his legs. Fortunately, Xavier became smart sufficient to recognize what she intended. "I'll manipulate, Ms. Brief. I've grown accustomed to being paralyzed those beyond 6 years, so a brief day trip to Mount Paozu may not be an issue for me. There may be no want for difficulty." The young inventor shrugged. "In case you say so, Professor." Xavier then surpassed her the 6 megastar ball, so she may want to area it in her bag. Afterwards, they exited the mansion and made preparations to depart. As Bulma brought out her hovercraft's dino cap, the professor thought approximately the mutant he sensed on Mount Paozu all over again. "I hope that wherever Gohan and the 4 celebrity ball are located, this mutant can be with them. Perhaps they may be the primary individual to join my ex-guys. Mt. Paozu, Savage Land, age 749, year 1996. After knowing that Gohan died and turned into never coming lower back, Goku attempted his high quality to transport on. He persisted practicing the martial arts techniques his grandpa taught him, consisting of the supremely effective Kamehameha wave. He favored to educate by means of fighting with dinosaurs and other humans residing inside the Savage Land. One of the boy's maximum not unusual sparring partners changed into Ka-Zar, the Savage Land's sworn protector, and his puppy saber-toothed tiger, Zabu. Although at the start at odds with every different, Ka-Zar slowly warmed as much as Goku upon discovering his close relationship with Gohan, a former mentor of the young wild guy. They went on many exceptional adventures together and even fought Margor, chief of the man-apes who, a few years prior, murdered an English nobleman and Ka-Zar's father, Lord Robert plundered. As a token of appreciation for helping him defeat Margor, Ka-Zar introduced Goku over to go to the Savage Land's Hunter-Gatherer Society, the Autumn People, on many exclusive events. He evolved a fast friendship with its chieftain, Tonga, and heard testimonies about the Savage Land's supposed creators, the Nuwali, from him. Goku failed to understand a phrase of what he turned into speaking approximately, but he loved being in Tonga's company, nevertheless. The 4 human beings even requested him to live in their tribe, but the monkey-tailed warrior declined. He simply felt greater at ease staying in the mountains in which Gohan raised him. Tonga's daughter, Nareel, who advanced a slight crush on him, became a chunk disenchanted through this choice, but Goku did not observe. He become simplest taught the maximum simple expertise about ladies that his grandpa should provide him, so that form of stuff did not capture his radar in any respect. Years exceeded till little Goku turned into now a slightly taller 12yr vintage boy. Ka-Zar changed into roughly around the age of 18 or 19, but despite their age distinction, they persevered to stay pals and fellow protectors of the Savage Land. They remained so close, in fact, that Zabu became for my part dispatched to observe over Gohan's adoptive grandson each so regularly. It would have been out of mere duty or an older brother, more youthful brother-type instinct for the person formerly known as Kevin Plunder, Goku, in the meantime, become status in a fight stance. As promised to his grandfather 6 years in the past, he had gotten a lot more potent than before. He picked up a huge log and, with relative ease, tossed it straight into the air. As it fell back off to earth, the boy jumped toward it. Hi-ya! Ya! He kicked the log and spit it into an excellent stack of 15 timber blocks. Goku clapped his fingers collectively in content material. Like greater than half of a decade ago, he still wore a blue gi and a white sash, however this time, with yellow pants on. His wristbands had been additionally red instead of purple. "Welp, that takes care of that," he stated earlier than clutching his empty stomach. "I'm hungry." Whoa. Now not looking to waste any more time, Goku bumped into his grandpa's hut and hoisted the energy pole round his shoulder. He tied its holster to his chest with a thin white string. "I am going to go get some food." He then walked over to the 4 megastar ball and prayed to it earlier than leaving. It hadn't left that spot due to the fact that Gohan's death. Due to him failing to find his body, Goku began to assume that the vintage man's spirit changed into inhabiting this Dragon Ball, and as a result, didn't want to chance touching it. He became too afraid to lose the closing hint of his grandfather that he had left. "Grandpa, stay there, okay? This might not take lengthy. I will be right again." Goku whispered. Right as he turned into about to walk away, the Dragon Ball glowed a vivid orange and let out a faint humming noise. It stopped after some seconds, plenty to Goku's surprise. "Who? I've never seen you shine brilliant like that earlier than, Grandpa. How peculiar." He muttered in mild awe. "Are you able to do it once more?" The 4 superstar ball remained motionless and didn't glow a second time. "You could wait till later if you have to. See you in a little." Even as Goku then left his hut at the back of and walked into a close-by wooded area. He turned into surrounded through a sea of coniferous pine bushes. "Now, what ought to I must consume today?" he hummed to himself while searching backward and forward. "Gosh, it's so tough to decide." "Why don't you decide, Tummy?" He looked down at his belly for a second earlier than walking along a pathway and flipping on top of a tree branch. "Fish? Fish? Yeah, that sounds absolutely exquisite. Hee. Very well." He somersaulted from department to department and then swung along the usage of a vine. The martial artist then spotted a substantially larger tree filled with apples. He landed on top of a rock formation so he could get a better look. "But first, I am gonna want a little snack." Goku leaped over to the apple tree and wrapped his tail around the very best department. Hanging off of it like a possum, he grabbed an apple and contentedly munched on it. That sure became tasty. Roar! After tossing away the apple core, Goku appeared down to see a familiar saber-toothed tiger standing under him. He turned into an 800-pound animal with orange fur and fearsome, inexperienced eyes. His lengthy, sharp enamel hung alongside the sides of his jaw. "Oh, hey, Zabu! I didn't see you down there." He greeted with an extensive smile. He quickly gulped down some other apple and hopped off the tree to stroke the Smilodon's head. "How is it going, pal?" "Rare." Zabu thankfully roared. He purred and rubbed his head towards Goku's body. He. "Happy to hear you're doing okay." Goku laughed. "Is Kazar with you?" Zabu shook his head and gestured closer to a deeper part of the savage land's many jungles. Goku nodded along in semi-knowledge. "Ah, I see. He ought to be searching some pteranodons again or something," he said with a shrug of his shoulders. "Oh, properly. Before he comes again, do you need to seek some fish with me, Zabu? You look a chunk hungry yourself." In that moment, Zabu's belly loudly groaned. The tiger sheepishly regarded away in what may want to satisfactorily be interpreted as embarrassment. "Rare. Roar. Tea. I will take that as a shore." Goku laughed. He then started going for walks inside the root of a nearby lake. "Come on then. Trap me if you could, Zabu." Ha. Zabu took Goku's mission to coronary heart and playfully bounded after him. Roar! They both ran at quicker than average speeds as Goku chuckled in sheer pride. He hadn't accomplished something like this with Zabu and Kazar in quite a long time. Ha. We're almost there. Only a few greater he iced over in area to look a massive yellow issue flying towards them. He pulled out his electricity pole and protectively stood in front of Zabu. "What the heck is that?" Goku whispered. Grrrr, Zabu growled as he bent his knees very low to the ground. Not like Goku, the tiger knew precisely what this system signified. It intended that humans from the floor world have been invading their domestic all over again. It gently landed in front of the two savage landers, inflicting them to cautiously take a step backward. The flying contraption's door opened to expose Bulma and Professor Charles Xavier. Ah! Subsequently, some sparkling air. Bulma sighed in remedy. She stretched even as looking back at the professor. You know, it would have been high quality to recognize that it took a few hours to get here, Professor. Xavier wheeled himself out of the plane as a ramp started out to be manually set up. I am afraid that became a lapse of judgment on my element. I do apologize. He locked eyes with Goku and the adverse saber-toothed tiger. They have been specially centered on his monkey tail and the energy pole resting in both of the kid's palms. That boy has the tail of a monkey tail. Should he be the mutant I sensed all those years ago? Xavier notion. Curiouser is the truth that he has the power pole, or Naibo, in his possession. Which means he should be affiliated with Gohan in some way. Prevent proper there, you two. Are you running with this large, flying monster? Goku tangled up in anger. He pointed his workforce from Bulma to Xavier in short succession. Dr. Short's daughter blinked a few instances in confusion. She jerked a thumb on the hovercraft parked at the back of her. Monster? What do you speak me approximately, kid? That is say what you need. However, Grandpa told me approximately evil creatures like you and that I recognize one once I see one. Your black arts might not work on me or Zabu right here. The orange smiled and roared in agreement. Rare. Selecting to intrude before Goku may want to purpose any damage to their deliver, Xavier closed his eyes and rested each fingers on either aspect of his forehead. Chill out, younger one. The two people have our available peace. He spoke telepathically. Goku diminished the electricity pole and frantically regarded round him in surprise. Whoa. A person speaking in my head. Who saying that? He requested, sharing direct eye contact with Kazar's tiger companion. Changed into that you, Zabu? No, that changed into me, son Goku. I projected my voice into your head, the usage of telepathy. Xavier informed. He rolled down the plane's ramp and positioned himself in front of Goku. Tell you hat now, is that a few form of magic trick? Bulma crossed her fingers. It method that he can read minds, youngster. He is a mutant named Professor Charles Xavier. It truly is simply what humans like him can do. Xavier? Wait a minute. Grandpa mentioned you sometimes before he died. He stated you were excellent friends or something. So, Gohan clearly is lifeless then? How tragic. If best I ought to have seen or spoke with him one final time. Professor X muttered below his breath. He sighed and sympathetically gazed on the boy. I am sorry to your loss, Goku. You don't forget how he died? The boy frowned and shook his head. Not really. He simply disappeared approximately 6 years in the past. I never saw him once more after that. Xavier squinted his eyes in suspicion. Without any shadow of doubt, he knew for positive that Goku became the mysterious mutant from earlier than. At the identical time, but the boy's electricity or presence did not appear as tremendous as it became years earlier. He wondered if this had something to do with Gohan's premature demise. I see. Does this imply you grew up all alone on Mount Paozu? Goku nervously scratched the again of his head. At the beginning, yeah, but then I were given to satisfy some precise people like Zabu and my friend, Kazar. They saved me organization ever considering the fact that. He stroked Zabu's head, making him act substantially much less adversarial within the manner. Rare. It's properly to recognize which you've survived the savage land for this lengthy. Permit me to properly introduce myself. Xavier cleared his throat and rested a hand over his chest. As Bulma already stated, I'm Professor Charles Xavier, a mutant researcher and geneticist searching to promote equality in this global. It is a delight to fulfill you. And I am Bulma. I am not nicely, whatever he simply stated, however I'm a terrific and beautiful inventor, if I do say so myself. You could try and be a little greater humble, Ms. Short. We simply met the boy. Xavier mentally recommended. TCH appearance who is speak me Bulma grumbled. Goku snickered to himself. He. Bulma. It's a pretty humorous call, admit. Hello, Son Goku not precisely normal either, so there. Yeah, however it is no longer weird as yours. He. Ooh. You be quiet. Bulma takes place to be pretty stylish. She huffed defensively. It is a lot higher than Goku and Charles, it really is for certain. HMPH. She then crossed her arms in a defiant manner. Mature as ever, Ms. Quick Xavier sighed. Anyways, I've been which means to invite you a query, Goku. A query, huh? Like what? It is about your monkey tail. Have you ever observed that no other human in the Savage Land appears to have one? Now, which you point out it does appear kinda bizarre. I continually notion every person had a tail like I do, but Ka and the fall humans did not. I in no way figured out why. I think it's due to your latent X gene, Goku. When you consider that mutants, in contrast to regular humans, are both born with superhuman abilities, animal-like characters, or something else, you is probably one of them. A mutant? Goku repeated. He regarded down at his toes in confusion. I never even knew something like that existed. Grandpa never talked about them while he become alive. Properly, your grandfather may have had powerful talents as a martial artist, however he wasn't a mutant like we're. He likely did not suppose it was a topic you may recognize at the sort of younger age. Xavier assumed. I suppose he became proper about that. Bulma muttered. She could inform that Goku wasn't fully grasping the concept just yet. Is being a mutant horrific or something? Is that why he didn't inform me? Oh, on no account. Mutation is a present you have to be proud of, Goku, not a curse. Mutants, at the quit of the day, are just like every other character. Xavier knowledgeable, but some people do not see matters that way. It's why I am working to sell coexistence among mutants and humanity, so sooner or later, a more peaceful, accepting world may be created. Co-life? Goku uttered in confusion. He failed to understand maximum of what the professor just said, however if it's supposed now not being judged for his monkey tail, then one of these idea turned into something he should get behind. He nodded his head and smiled at Xavier. I suppose I get what you are pronouncing. Does this imply you came to the Savage Island to find me? Yes and no. We also got here due to the fact your grandpa had a Dragon Ball in his possession. Do you still have that someplace, Goku? Bulma asked while innocently retaining both fingers at the back of her lower back. Oh. You mean the orange ball with 4 pink stars? Yep. It is back at my grandpa's hut. I can take you men there in case you want. The monkey-tailed boy supplied. That DB tons favored, Goku. We will talk some extra when you lead us there. Xavier replied. Certain element. Allow us pass. Goku chirped. He then walked over to Zabu and pointed toward the nearest jungle. Pass inform Ka what's going on, Zabu? Rare. The tiger nodded his head and fast ran into the space. Getting a little frightened around that large, potentially guy-eating tiger, Bulma wiped some sweat off her forehead. Phew. That tiger can actually understand what you're pronouncing? Yup. Zabu's pretty smart for a huge cat. Goku said. He may additionally appearance dangerous, however he is excellent after you get to recognize him. This place just continues getting weirder and more odd, Bulma whispered. Having a nice verbal exchange with a hungry carnivore become not something she wanted to go off her bucket list. She became a ways too young and beautiful to die like that after setting the yellow hovercraft again in its tablet. Bulma and Professor X observed Goku to his hut. Little did he recognize, someone turned into listening in on their verbal exchange hidden at the back of a patch of trees sat turned into former physician, geneticist, and hypnotherapist, Carl Lycos. Once a former colleague of Xavier's, he had gone missing in the Savage Land some months in the past. He had wished to marry his youth sweetheart, Tanya Andersen, however due to being bitten via mutant pterodactyls as toddler, Carl felt a want to absorb life strength, or ki, from each people and animals. Lycos drained numerous patients in their power till at some point, he could not comprise the sense of guilt constructing up inner of him and fled to Tierra del Fuego, an archipelago in the lowest point of South the USA. Not wishing to probably damage Tanya along with his powers, Carl jumped off a cliff in and tried to kill himself. Regrettably, Lyco survived and ended up visiting to the savage land. He tried to stay off as little strength as feasible, but the hunger for extra changed into a long way too incredible. And now that no longer one, however two mutants have revealed themselves, Lycos felt compelled to try feeding off of them. Mutants, in any case, had greater existence electricity than a normal human did. A mutant martial artist, like Goku, might have even more to spare. And no. Charles is my pal. I cannot do something so unspeakable to him. Simplest the devil would ponder it. He hissed. He slammed his fist towards a close-by tree in growing frustration. Rattling all of it. For what reason did he must arrive here of all locations? To sooner or later discover younger mutant specimens and educate them as he always advised me he might. Carl Lycos changed into a muscular man with brief brown hair and a blue loincloth. He used to be carrying an inexperienced parka, however it had lengthy considering that been lost to time. On the other hand, that younger mutant is brimming with all types of electricity. If I soak up simply an ounce of his power, I can sense extra power than I've ever skilled earlier than. I am certain of it. Lyco sneered in desperation. Then and simplest then, will my starving thirst be quenched. It can be the key to seeing my beautiful Tanya once more. Tears built up in his eyes just contemplating the woman's blonde hair and blue eyes. He rested to quit his face in newfound grief. I think this location is a becoming prison for a savage beast consisting of myself, he muttered. Choosing to endure the ache, Lycos saved himself hidden within the shadows and stalked his most up-to-date prey. Approximately 30 minutes later. You honestly couldn't wait to eat that fish, huh? Bulma darted her eyes closer to a big blue fish Goku become dragging across the ground. For a few purpose, he insisted on catching it earlier than they walked over to his house. It did not take too lengthy, luckily. However, seeing him trap the fish in together with his tail changed into still a piece weird. Nope. A big as large as this man is quite hard to discover. The martial artist answered. Xavier checked out the fish's now vacant and soulless white eyes. It died the very moment Goku kicked it within the face. He could have been more than inspired if it were not so stressful. I'm simply surprised you had been capable of kill it with one blow. Gohan certain has taught you well. The professor said. He. You guess. Grandpa sincerely did recognize a issue or approximately martial arts, all right. Goku chuckled in fond reminiscence. He turned into curious to look how they react to the Kamehameha wave. That LL proved to be pretty beneficial as a member of the X-Men. I knew selecting him as my first scholar changed into the right name to make. Xavier idea to himself. I'm wondering how he will get at the side of Jean and different young mutants like himself. Some greater minutes passed till sooner or later, they made it to Gohan's hut. Goku set his fish down and stood in the front of the door. Wow, it really is a pleasant little place you got there, child. Bulma said while searching up at the hut's blue roof. For a residence that was greater than 12 years old, it nonetheless looked pretty excellent, in her opinion. It clearly suits the common or garden lifestyle your grandfather desired to have. Xavier said. Gee. Thanks, men. Simply wait here 1 second. Goku then ran forward and swung open the hut's double doors. He noticed the 4-star ball sparkling and buzzing at 2D time. Pay attention, he whispered. Grandpa should be trying to speak to me. It's now not what it is doing, you goof. Your ball is just reacting to the other 2 that we have. Bulma said. She then pulled out her famous person ball and Xavier's 6 megastar ball, respectively. See? Goku's eyes widened. Wow! They look exactly the same as Grandpa's. No longer exactly, Goku. Each Dragon Ball has an extraordinary quantity of stars on them. The only your grandfather gave you has 4. Xavier cited. Goku counted the celebs together with his hands and smiled. Yep. There may be 7 of them in total, proper? Grandpa stated that a huge dragon named Shenron might come to furnish desires if all of them are amassed collectively. That's accurate. They VE the electricity to do in reality terrific things. Xavier spoke back. And not so tremendous. If a bad character got a preserve of these balls, they might clearly wreak a few havoc. Bulma added in darkish tone. Havoc? What does that suggest? Goku blankly requested. It means that an evil guy named Magneto is planning to use the Dragon Balls to take over the entirety and anyone. He plans to turn anyone on the planet into mutants with Shenron's want granting powers. Xavier explained. Goku scratched the return of his head in confusion. However, aren't we mutants? Should not that be a good issue? Xavier became accepting this kind of reaction. He moved toward Goku and rested a hand on his shoulder. You would assume so, Goku. However, I have come to research that an overabundance of the X gene will cause mass chaos throughout the globe. I need human beings to willingly take delivery of us, not be compelled to by means of way they can't manage. The martial artist nodded. Guess that sorta makes experience. Magento is just too consumed via his personal hatred for humanity to peer cause, sadly. I've attempted and failed oftentimes to trade his thoughts, but to no avail. Xavier sighed in remorse. For this reason, I need you to help me and Ms. Short forestall him, Goku. What do you are saying? He offered his hand as a gesture of goodwill and friendship. Goku, however, turned into reluctant to simply accept this offer. I dunno. This Dragon Ball is all I've left of Grandpa. It de-experience wrong to just give it away. It's for an awesome purpose, kid. We are no longer planning to want for something selfish like strawberries or the appropriate boyfriend. You could believe us, trust me. Bulma beamed. Right. You weren't making plans that at all, Xavier mockingly grumbled. Besides, this could give you a hazard to see the world Gohan used to live in and, necessarily, left in the back of. There may be all kinds of powerful mutants and martial artists you can fight against there. Does not that sound promising? It does, yeah, but Bulma mischievously grinned. There's also a wide collection of scrumptious food you may strive, Goku. Hee. On the mention of meals, Goku's mood took a 180 and he hurriedly shook Xavier's hand straight away. The bad professor almost fell out of his wheelchair in marvel. Sounds fun. I wager I'm able to pass then. First class C's, Ms. Short. I need to have known the boy could suppose more together with his belly than his brain. Xavier mentally sent his regards. Bulma winked and gave him an okay image along with her fingers. But where will we begin searching? The Dragon Balls might be anywhere in the complete international, proper? Goku asked, how do you watched we got here, silly? Professor Xavier and I used this radar to track your Dragon Ball. It's how we had been able to find the savage land in the first vicinity. Bulma giggled even as gesturing to her technologically superior tool. She pressed the Dragon Radar's button until sparkling orange lighting fixtures regarded on screen. The 3 they have been clumped collectively in one single spot. Who? Neat. The boy whispered. Should we be going then? Yes. As soon as Bulma brings out her dino caps, we can accurately fly back up to the floor and, as he spoke, Carl Lycos jumped out of the trees and leapt towards Professor Xavier. Bulma screeched in worry. Professor, behind you! Xavier spun round to see his vintage buddy and colleague towering over him. A look of sheer insanity was plastered all over his face. Physician Lycos? He gasped. Lycos then slammed each of his arms in opposition to Xavier's temples, inflicting his thoughts to enjoy indescribable pain. Sure. Scream, Charles. Fill me along with your power. I'm able to sense it flowing into every pore of my skin. As life electricity was transferred from Xavier's thoughts to Lycos' body, Goku ran over to the person and kicked him off. Escape from him, you monster! He growled. Xavier fell off his wheelchair from exhaustion and struggled to breath. Bulma quickly tried to pick him up off the ground. Lycos, on the other hand, confirmed definitely no situation. He felt the spot where Goku kicked him in gleeful euphoria. He. M-monster, you say? Yes. That is what I, Carl Lycos, have emerged as. I'm nothing greater than a fiend spawned by using a frozen hell. He sorrowfully proclaimed. He then clutched his aching skull. Yah! I will bear the ache no more. Goku took a step back and held out his energy pole in a protective manner. What's going on to him, Bulma? I ought to be asking you that, Einstein, Bulma screamed. Before their very eyes, Carl Lycos' frame became dark inexperienced as huge, leathery wings changed his palms. His face grew into that of a dinosaurian beak as an extended tail extended outward from his backside. The man's personal eyes had been now blood-red with yellow pupils. My frame, my face, my very soul, they have been crammed, bursting, billowing power. There may be each power for proper or electricity for evil flowing internal me, Lycos cried. His transformation became now complete. He outstretched his wings and let out a noisy, reptilian screech. And I pick out evil. An evil so brilliant, so monumental that simplest one call in all the annals of literature will include it. The name of J.R.R. Tolkien's remaining villain, that dark lord who personified and turned into certainly evil incarnate. The pterodactyl mutate narrowed his eyes and glared at Goku. I will now pass by using the name of Sauron. Superb, he's both a few horrifying monster and a nerd. Bulma whimpered in worry. Silly wench. There's nothing nerdy about the literary works of J.R.R. Tolkien. Sauron scowled in burning hatred. For that, you'll be the first of my many sufferers. He took flight and clutched Bulma's shoulders along with his big, reptilian toes. He then ascended to the skies of Mount Paozu, a good deal to the teenage woman's absolute horror. Ah! Don't just stand there, idiot! Get me down! Bulma screamed. Ugh! Pipe down! You pitiful people really disgust me. Sauron winced. He then glared down on the young mutant. You heard your little pal, Son Goku. What is wrong? Are you too afraid to combat a superior being such as myself? Welp, it's a fight you need, Sauron, then it's a fight you may get. Giving one last look at the subconscious Xavier, Goku placed an unmarried hand at the ground and jumped up. He turned into now eye level with Sauron in the air. Remarkable bounce, boy, but it won't be sufficient to keep your power pole make bigger. Goku delivered out his crimson team of workers and prolonged it all the way lower back. The massive duration of this weapon took Sauron by means of surprise. What the hell? Here. Take this, you suggest, old bully. The monkey-tailed boy shouted. He swung the energy pole and hit Sauron immediately on the top. The amount of ache he felt turned into indescribable. Gah! The reptilian risk allow pass of Bulma, inflicting her to fall straight back down to Mount Paozu. She flailed her palms about in worry as Sauron descended simply as speedy. Assist me, Goku! Assist! Without a lot trouble, Goku competently landed close to his hut, contracted the power pole lower back to regular length, and caught Bulma. She couldn't stop herself from shivering because the woman stood returned up. Thank you. Thank him for what? It really is simply a fortunate shot, idiot. Sauron croaked as he speedily recovered from the energy pole's blow. Make no mistake, I can soak up that delicious energy of yours for myself, Son Goku. I'll smash your form to a bloody pulp if I should. Properly, in case you desired my power so badly, then all you needed to do become ask. Goku said with an absent-minded shrug. He then cupped his arms together and crouched down. I have not performed this in some time, however here goes. Hope you're now not dissatisfied with the aid of it. At the sidelines, Xavier opened his eyes to look the stance that Goku was status in. He widened his eyes in popularity. He the usage of the signature method of Gohan's master, the Turtle Hermit. May want you truly have discovered it at such a younger age. Kami Sauron become too intrigued by means of what he changed into seeing to move. A blue ball of power managed to form in between Goku's fingers. It grew barely bigger and started out to spin around. Bulma may want to only cover her face to prevent herself from being blinded with the aid of the eponymous Ki Blast. Sure, Son Goku. Deliver me your power, it'll most effective display my superiority even further. He cackled. Developing impatient, Sauron outstretched his sharp talons and prepared to pounce on the boy. Do it. Give it to me now. Ha! Goku unleashed the Kamehameha wave and fired it head-on. The blue Ki Blast slammed into Sauron's body, inflicting him to try soaking up it. Unfortunately, it changed into a ways too effective for someone like him to handle. Yes. This lifestyle's pressure will make Sauron invincible. You should be proud, mutant. You'll be all that I require to rule this savage land and HAA. Goku put a bit extra strength into the Kamehameha and driven Sauron back some feet. The human became pterodactyl could feel himself slipping. Wait, no. It is too much. I can feel myself converting lower back into that sniveling weakling, Carl Lycos. He growled. He became then fully engulfed via the blast and dispatched flying. Gra! Enoo! Curse you, Son Goku! The Kamehameha wave smashed Sauron into a nearby wooded area and exploded upon effect. Once the smoke cleared, the strength vampire changed back into his human form. Thank God I'm again to everyday Carl Lycos then collapsed onto his knees and fell subconscious. Goku walked over to the man and frowned. Too terrible. I certainly don't like to hurt all people, but he gave me no desire. He stated. It changed into a laugh combat, although Xavier managed to just slightly move slowly back into his wheelchair and reconvene with Goku. Don't think too unwell of him, Goku. Carl Lycos is an vintage friend of mine. The professor knowledgeable. He sympathetically seemed upon his colleague. I knew he ought to become something like that. Perhaps I should have helped him greater. Is he a mutant too? I'm afraid not. His transformation into Sauron is something a long way special and arguably extra dangerous. Xavier stated in uncertainty. He then proudly smiled at the boy. That is why I'm proud that you had been able to combat him off so nicely. You are a talented fighter, my boy. Or. It changed into not anything. I simply didn't want to see you or Bulma get hurt. Goku sheepishly chuckled. I'm grateful to you for saving me and all, Goku, however I'm having a bit disaster right here, Bulma murmured in embarrassment. Small droplets of pee were falling out of her skirt, inflicting Xavier to look away from disgust. Oh dear. I knew you ought to went earlier. Well, excuse me for no longer looking to pee in front of two men. A girl needs her privateness. Bulma scowled as she tried to cowl up her incident. All right, very well. Just convey out one among your capsules and get a clean alternative garments. Xavier sighed at the same time as brushing aside Bulma's issues with a wave of his hand. We've got an extended adventure beforehand of us. The younger inventor introduced out her container of dino caps and ran into a few trees. You don't have to tell me 2 times. Xavier pinched the bridge of his nose in mild annoyance. It added back reminiscences of the way scatterbrained Dr. Short will be. There's no doubt. That woman honestly is her father's daughter, by the way. Professor, why did not you stand returned up after that Lycos man knocked you over? Xavier rubbed the again of his head. He commonly didn't like discussing his legs, but for Goku, he make an exception. It is due to the fact my legs don't paintings anymore, Goku. It is what humans call paralysis. I misplaced them a long time ago. The Saiyang child blinked a few instances in surprise. He failed to even suppose an damage like that was possible. His wounds had never been permanent earlier than. Virtually? How did that show up? Xavier closed his eyes and let loose a regretful sigh. Thinking about the past constantly introduced fourth darkish thoughts into his mind. My old buddy, Magneto, did it? Wait a minute. You imply the identical Magneto that is trying to, the very same guy seeking out the Dragon Balls, yes. I'll provide an explanation for greater about it at a later date. We've greater essential subjects to attend to proper now. Xavier sternly reminded him. Like getting you out of the savage land, as an example. Goku nodded. Okay then. Even as Carl Lycos, or as his trade personality called him, Sauron, continued to put unconscious, Goku and Xavier waited for Bulma to finish her business. Afterwards, they'd be capable of officially begin their adventure to search for the closing Dragon Balls. Goku would just want to mention goodbye to Ka-Zar and Zabu first. Somewhere in the South American country of Peru, 3 shady individuals found themselves looking for a mysterious artifact of untold magical power. Various rumors claimed that it had been kept hidden within Machu Picchu, a lost Incan city, so they didn't hesitate to scour its abandoned temples and catacombs for it. After a few hours of constant inspection and hiking, the legendary Dragon Ball they had been searching for was found. This ball, which included only a single red star in its center, rested in front of a large black suit of armor. 6 other armors with bone-tipped spears in their hands seemed to be keeping guard on either side. They, strangely enough, seemed more alien in nature than Incan, but neither of the 3 really paid much attention to notice. All they cared about was grabbing the Dragon Ball and getting the hell out of there. Such thoughts especially applied to the group's leader, Emperor Pilaf. He was strange-looking even by the standards of other mutants like himself, having light blue skin, pointed ears, and a small body. He wore a green, red, and black tunic with a white frill wrapped around his neck, and blue pants. In the center of his tunic was a red-white emblem with Japanese kanji that roughly translated to fried rice in English. Despite his unintimidating appearance, Pilaf was, by no means, a complete joke. He was a technological genius that could certainly make his goals for world domination come to fruition. He just needed the Dragon Ball's wish-granting abilities to ensure his reign. After that point, no one would look down at him for his mutant heritage or significant lack of muscles mass ever again. Ah. There it is, you two. Pilaf said with a conniving grin on his face. One of his subordinates nervously gulped. He was a mutant ninja that resembled an orange Shiba Inu dog and wore a purple uniform that covered his 2 pointy ears. It's awfully dark in there, sire. The impish emperor scowled at his minion's cowardice. Shut up, shoo. All of them then approached the 1-star ball, including Pilaf's more competent follower, Mai. She was a tall, beautiful Russian woman with long black hair, blue eyes, and red lipstick. She wore a blue trench coat with a red star insignia on each shoulder and a brown belt that kept it tightly secured around her waist. This woman, a former KGB agent for the now-defunct Soviet Union, appeared to be normal physically, but still had mutant powers to call her own. Depending on the situation, she could shapeshift into any person, animal, or thing, making her quite successful at both assassination missions and murder in general. However, these powers only came about during rather intense situations. Mai could, unfortunately, be just as goofy and borderline incompetent as her 2 comrades, but she still didn't make it as noticeable. She darted her eyes from left to ear suspiciously as Pilaf grabbed the Dragon Ball. Come to Emperor Pilaf, my precious. Yes. He shouted. Now, I'm ready to finally make my wish. Wait, sir. Mai interjected in a calm, yet stern tone. Wait. What do you mean wait? I hate to be the one to break it to you, but you can't make a wish with just 1 ball. You have to gather the others as well, Emperor Pilaf gasped. Others? According to legend, there are 7 Dragon Balls, sire. You have to unite all 7 of them before the dragon will appear and grant your wish. She explained. The blue-skinned mutant sighed and dejectedly looked down at his first Dragon Ball. More searching, but just imagine, dear Emperor, that glorious day when the 7 balls are finally brought together. A burst of energy will light the sky and in a blazing surge of fiery power, the eternal dragon, Shenron, will rise before you for the sole purpose of granting you a single wish, whatever it may be. Yes, yes. I can see it, Mai. Well, okay, I guess I can handle a little more searching. Pilaf replied while laughing to himself maniacally. Hee hee. Any wish I want, who? Then I want to rule the entire world. I'll create an empire so powerful that it will put the United States and Soviet Union to shame. An ambitious wish, Your Majesty, but a rather selfish, short-sighted one, don't you think? They spun around to see a lone figure levitating in front of the temple's entrance. It was a tall, muscular man wearing red-purple armor with matching boots, gloves, and a long cape that was draped behind his back. A helmet of the same color concealed his face in shadows and only made two white, ominously glowing eyes visible to the Pilaf gang. He crossed his arms while floating in midair, seemingly unperturbed by Pilaf's hostile facial expressions. "Who the heck are you?" the imp cried. "I have gone by many names, Pilaf, but only one is worthy enough to represent the power and authority I have come to possess." The man replied. "You may call me Magneto." Pilaf broke out into a fit of uncontrollable laughter. Mai and Shu were far too on edge by Magneto's presence to join in. "Phut! Ha ha ha! I'm sorry, but what kind of stupid name is that, and why would you even bother calling yourself that in the first place?" Magneto said nothing in reply. He simply outstretched his arm and made all 6 suits of armor point their spears at the three. They were now surrounded on all sides, much to their immense confusion and fear. "Does that answer your question? How did you?" The mysterious mutant levitated closer to the Pilaf gang and looked down upon them. "Believe it or not, we actually have quite a few things in common, my little blue friend. I, the Supreme Master of Magnetism, am a mutant like yourself, have amassed a group of followers loyal to my cause, and," he narrowed his eyes and pointed at the 1-star ball, "also have an interest in using the Dragon Balls to make my own wish come true." "And what wish, may I ask, would that be?" Mai asked. To the trio's surprise, Magneto's facial expressions, although concealed, became a bit more somber and remorseful. "For countless centuries, our kind has been persecuted, slaughtered, and wrongfully ostracized by those foolish Homo sapiens that dare to call themselves human beings. They fear our gifts so much that mutant kind itself is considered a disease to them, yet, in actuality, they are the virus preventing the next stage in human evolution from taking place," he explained in anger. "That is why I wish to simply speed up the process a bit." "By doing what?" Shu almost regretted to inquire. "Once I collect all 7 Dragon Balls, I will wish for every person on the planet to become a mutant. There will be no need for any more anti-mutant sentiment if the whole entire world is populated by us and only us." Magneto revealed with fully narrowed eyes. He then sighed, thinking back to the days spent with his best friend and fellow mutant, Professor Charles Xavier. He hoped that Charles would join his cause one day. "I may have supported coexistence between our species at one point, but over time, I've come to realize that this is the only true solution to this problem," the magnetic mutant muttered. "And that is why I require the use of your dragon radar, Pilaf. Please think carefully about what I've explained to you." The Emperor tightened his lips. Although he initially thought the man was insane, his talk of persecution and prejudice ended up hitting far too close to home. His family may have been wealthy, but that didn't make the pure hatred directed towards his blue, impish appearance any less hurtful. It took him years just to get over that feeling. "Are you really going through with this, sire? This Magneto guy seems pretty unhinged," Shu warned. Mai scoffed in annoyance. "TCH. What other choice do we have, Shu? We'll probably get stabbed with these spears, or worse if his offer is declined." "Silence, you blockheads! I'm thinking." Pilaf looked from the 1-star ball to Magneto in confusion. He did this same action for a few seconds before grimacing and breaking out into a cold sweat. "What's in it for me, I mean, us? Well, if my plans succeed and the planet becomes fully populated by mutants, then you will surely gain quite a reputation for contributing to the survival of our race. You might even amass your own empire, in fact." "My own empire," Pilaf whispered to himself in delight. It wouldn't exactly give him much control over the entire world, but in the end, it was better than nothing. He then begrudgingly handed over the Dragon Ball to Magneto and slumped his shoulders. "Fine, you win. We'll help you increase the amount of mutants or whatever." The Master of Magnetism tightly clutched the 1-star ball in his hand and smiled. "Your willingness to help is much appreciated, Pilaf." He then swiped his arm and expertly moved the 6 armors back into place. This caused Shu, Mai, and Pilaf to clutch their knees in sudden relief. "Let us be off then, my mutant sister and brothers." The three gave each other nervous looks before exiting the temple and following Magneto's lead. A large mountain range that surrounded Machu Picchu could be seen nearby. Shu scratched the back of his head. I think I parked our airship somewhere over there. Let me just. No need. Magneto floated a bit higher in the air and outstretched both of his arms. With some additional effort, the powerful mutant magnetically grabbed a hold of Pilaf's flying base and picked it up. He then clenched his hand and slowly, but surely dropped it right in front of them. To say that Shu's mind was blown would be a huge understatement. He could barely stop his jaw from dropping to the floor. I think I just peed a little. Mai pinched the bridge of her nose and shook her head. Do it near a tree this time, please. Right as they were about to board the flying base, Magneto's aforementioned followers appeared. They comprised of a blue-skinned woman with short red hair and yellow eyes, a beastly-looking man with long, metallic claws and sharp teeth, and a few more after that. Their leader proudly gestured to them in front of his three new allies and, more likely than not, pawns. Welcome to the Brotherhood of Mutants. Back at the Savage Land, Ka-Zar, once known as Kevin Plunder, was currently attempting to take down a Tyrannosaurus Rex all by himself. He managed to climb up the dinosaur's back and stab at its pink eyes with a large hunting knife. The creature, of course, did indeed take too kindly to this action and tried to toss him off, but to no avail. The self-proclaimed Lord of the Jungle was simply too strong for it. However, his endurance was another story. I wish Zabu or Tonga was here. I could really use some help against this beast. In that exact moment, his beloved saber-toothed tiger, Zabu, leapt out of some bushes and joined the battle. He pounced on the T-Rex and took a large bite out of its scaly flesh. "Rao, great timing as always, old friend," Ka-Zar shouted. He then took advantage of the dinosaur's pain and stabbed it straight in the head. Its brain was pierced as a result, causing the reptilian beast to collapse onto the ground and fall dead. Ka-Zar brushed his long, blonde locks backward and took a deep breath. That could have gone better, he grumbled while putting his knife back in its holster. At least the fall people will be eating well tonight. Unless that little glutton, Goku, somehow gets his hands on it. He laughed at the thought of his monkey-tailed friend and smiled. This caused Zabu to brush up against his leg and gesture to the part of the jungle he just came from. "Ooh? What is the matter, Zabu?" Ka-Zar asked. "Does this have something to do with Goku?" The prehistoric tiger nodded his head. "Gah! Grow!" The wild man narrowed his eyes in newfound concern. "I see. Well, hopefully that kid isn't in some kind of trouble," he said. "Lead the way, Zabu old buddy." Rug! The two of them then ran towards Mount Paozu as fast as they could. During their short run back there, Goku, Professor Xavier, and Bulma were preparing to board a hovercraft back to the surface. Thankfully, once the young heiress did her business and had a quick change of clothes, there wouldn't be any more emergencies to worry about for the time being, although Carl Lyco's unconscious body still brought up some obvious concerns. So, what's going to happen to this Lyco's guy? We can't just leave him here, Goku pointed out. Bulma crossed her arms and huffed. She was now wearing a blue jacket and pants that included the word Bulma on each shoulder. HMPH. Why shouldn't we? There's a chance he might wake up and try to turn into that scary-looking monster again. And I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather not be in the same place as him if or when that happens again. Is it 'cause you don't want to pee your pants again? Goku asked. I said not to talk about that, you rude little boy. Bulma shrieked, causing the young martial artist to cover his ears. Come now, Ms. Brief. There's no need to yell, Xavier advised. Dr. Lyco's transformation was initiated by the absorption of mutant energy, so due to the power of Goku's Kamehameha wave, I hypothesized that he'll be burnt out for quite some time. Lyco's, or more specifically, Sauron, reached the maximum amount of power he could absorb, I believe. Goku nodded. Ah, okay. So, that's why he conked out like that. Well, scary pterodactyl or not, I still want to get out of here and never come back to the Savage Land Aga. Bulma's comment was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Ka-Zar and Zabu. Seeing the man's bare chest and large muscles caused the teenage girl to be struck dumb with pure lust. On second thought, maybe this place isn't too bad, after all. Hee. She giggled. Goku, ignoring Bulma's weird personality shift, waved at his old friend and grinned. Hey, K-Zar. Looks like Zabu got you here just in time. Huh? The jungle man quirked a brow. Got me here just in time for what, young friend? It was then that Dr. Brief South daughter scooched extra close to K-Zar and wrapped her hands around his arm. Even Zabu didn't know how to react to this gesture. Just in time to meet me, of course. I'm Goku's new friend, Bulma. She said suggestively. Are you seeing anyone, handsome? I could be the Jane to your Tarzan if you know what I mean. He. Goku darted his eyes from Bulma to K-Zar in confusion. But his name is K-Zar, though. It's a reference, kid. You still have a lot left to learn about the outside world. Bulma grimaced. And you have a lot left to learn about something called personal space, miss. K-Zar then wrenched his arm free from Bulma's, causing her to whine in disappointment. Now, who are you people, really? And what business do you have with Goku? Allow me to explain, K-Zar, Professor Xavier replied as he wheeled himself into view. I am an old friend of Goku's late grandfather, Son Gohan, and a prized geneticist from Westchester County, New York. I have recently identified him as a mutant, much like myself, and hope to help the boy unlock his full potential. K-Zar massaged his chin in thought. A mutant, HM? Makes sense. I always did wonder why he was born with a monkey tail. He. I always wondered that myself, so you're not alone. Goku chuckled, but even so, what good would bringing him to New York do? Goku's managed to train and grow strong just fine here. He exclaimed. He's done a great deal of good for the Savage Land's people, so it'd be unfair to me, Zabu, and the others to take him away without good reason. Bulma pulled out her dragon radar and one of the Dragon Balls. It is for a good reason, though, K-Zar. There are some bad people up on the surface who want to use Goku's Dragon Ball and 6 others to transform everyone on the entire planet into mutants. She then frowned at him in a more serious manner. And that likely includes the Savage Land too. His eyes widened from shock. He might not have had that much knowledge about mutants and their kind, but the event that Bulma just described would, undoubtedly, be pure chaos. It'd lead to the forceful mutation of himself and other unsuspecting people he knew. That's complete madness. If that orange ball is indeed capable of such power, then K-Zar took out his knife and brandished it. Wouldn't it be best to destroy it right here and now? Before whatever maniac who's planning this succeeds in getting what they want. Goku shook his head. He'd be completely miserable if anything happened to his grandfather's Dragon Ball. No, you can't do that, K-Zar. That's all I have left of my grandpa, remember? He looked down at the floor in shame and put away his knife. You're right. That was a lapse of judgment on my part. It was then that the man realized how righteous Professor Xavier and, to a lesser extent, Bulma's intentions were. There were no longer any more excuses he could come up with to deny Goku's departure. It would just be difficult to accept that one of his oldest friends and allies would be leaving him behind. He knelt down and rested a hand on Goku's shoulder. Tell me, young warrior. Do you really wish to leave the Savage Land behind? The boy, although reluctant in certain aspects, was adamant about his decision. I mean, I kinda don't want to leave you and Zabu, but there's a whole not her world to see out there. And my grandpa came from it, so it must not be too bad, right? Goku explained the reasoning behind his choice to leave. Plus, I bet there is some pretty strong guys to fight up on the surface. Don't forget the food too. Bulma added. This caused Goku to nod his head even more enthusiastically. Yeah, and a bunch of new food to eat. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. K-Zar bent his head back and started laughing in amusement. Aha! Only you could be thinking with your stomach at a time like this, my friend. Some things never change, do they? He. Guess not. The two friends then spent a moment or two laughing, reminiscing about old times. Those adventures were now a thing of the past, but Goku would always hold them close to his heart, even entire worlds away. K-Zar then grabbed a hold of Goku's hand and shook it as a sign of respect. Then I guess this is goodbye, son Goku. You'll always be welcome in the Savage Land, so please feel free to come visit at any time. You bet, K-Zar. Hope it won't be too long. Goku beamed. As he tried to walk away, a saddened Zabu lightly tugged part of the boy's GI with his mouth. This made the spiky-haired boy a little sad himself. "Or, don't be like that, Zabu. I want to be gone forever, so we'll see each other again soon, buddy. I promise." He cooed while hugging parts of the tiger's orange fur. "Who knows? I might be even stronger than I am now." The tiger then pounced on top of Goku and proceeded to excessively lick his face. "Row! P-R-R-R! Hey! Stop that! I'll miss you too." Hee. After ridding himself of saber-toothed tiger slobber, Bulma used a dino cap to bring out her yellow hovercraft once more. The three were now officially ready to depart from the savage land. "By the way, K-Zar, I would like to you for a favor," Professor Xavier stated matter-of-factly. "What kind of favor?" The bald researcher pointed over to Carl Lycos' still unconscious form. "That man is an old friend of mine named Dr. Carl Lycos. He has a strange infliction that causes him to transform into a pterodactyl-like monster called Sauron, but only after coming in contact with mutant powers," the professor proclaimed in dismay. "Despite this disease, he is a good man who could provide medical aid and support for your people. All I ask is that you take care of him for the time being. At least for as long as he decides to remain in the savage land." K-Zar was a little more than disturbed by this information, but given the strain and sorrow laced in Lycos' expression, it wouldn't be right to just leave him alone like that. The savage land is filled with all sorts of danger, so a doctor's services would be greatly appreciated. I'll bring him to my friend Tonga's village and see what I can do. Please make certain nothing bad happens to Goku in return. You have my word on that, Mr. Plunder. No harm will come to the boy with me as his teacher and guardian," Xavier assured him. K-Zar looked startled by the casual utterance of his original birth name. "How did you?" "A telepath can access information in quite a number of ways, Lord of the Savage Land," Professor Xavier replied telepathically. The blonde-haired warrior massaged his aching forehead and directed Bulma to where she needed to fly to. "There's a series of tunnels over yonder. Just go through there and you should reach the surface in a number of hours." Bulma gave him an appreciative thumbs up. "Gotcha. Thanks for the heads up." With Goku and Professor Xavier now strapped in, the young girl took flight and officially departed from the savage land. She also spared a few more unsavory thoughts about K-Zar's body before leaving. "Please do keep your mind out of the gutter, Ms. Brief. There's a child on board." Bulma scowled at the sound of Xavier's voice inside her head. "Ooh. Let a girl express her secret desires in peace, Professor." "Desires? What is she talking about now, Professor?" Goku asked obliviously. "Don't worry too much about it. Even teenage hormones confused me sometimes," Xavier muttered. Bulma, hearing every word they said, tightly gripped the steering wheel and kept flying. They were nothing but a small speck in the sunlight as they left the savage land and moved on to the next part of their adventure. Once they were gone, K-Zar picked up Carl Lycos' unconscious body and prepared to carry him over to the Fall People. The brown-haired doctor, in spite of his frail condition, opened one of his eyes to glance up at the yellow hovercraft. He thought of the young boy who managed to stop Sauron's rampage and smiled. "Thank you, son Goku." A few hours later at Westchester County, New York, age 749, year 1996. The trip back to New York was rather long and tedious, but eventually, Goku, Professor Xavier, and Bulma reached their destination. She landed her hovercraft in front of the X-Mansion and yawned. "Well, boys, we're here. It's good to finally be somewhere normal for a change." The blue-haired girl sighed in relief. "Thank the Lord that dinosaurs aren't still alive outside the savage land." Goku looked perplexed by this information. "Wait, what? You don't have dinosaurs in New York or whatever this place is?" "Afraid not. Dinosaurs have been extinct for millions of years," Professor Xavier informed. "It's why the savage land is such an anomaly compared to the rest of the world." The boy counted on his fingers, trying to figure out how big of a number millions would be. "Wow. That's a really long time. Any reason why things are like that?" "Even I don't know the exact answer to that question. Your home's origins are a mystery that many scientists have tried and failed to solve countless times over." "That's kinda odd," Goku muttered. "Indeed it is," Xavier agreed. But enough about that. Let us take a look at the mansion. It'll be your new home for the foreseeable future. Mansion? The three piled out of the hovercraft and walked outside. Goku now had the opportunity to get a good, hard look at Professor Xavier's estate. It proved to be much bigger and fancier than he initially anticipated. Holy cow! This place is gigantic. That sounds pretty close to what my first reaction was, kid. Bulma chuckled. She then placed her hovercraft back into its respective dino cap and put it away. I inherited this property from my family many years ago, Goku. Although it once used to be my childhood home, I have decided to turn into a school called the Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters. Xavier proclaimed with a proud, hopeful smile on his face. You and, hopefully, other young mutants around your age will study here as the school's first students. Goku looked a little disinterested in that part of their discussion. He, as usual, was looking forward to training more than studying. Who? I've never really went to school before, Professor. Won't this all be a little boring? Bulma snorted. It's school, Goku. Of course it will be. Professor Xavier glared at her before clearing his throat and patting Goku on the shoulder. Truth be told, many of the most powerful martial artists have managed to strengthen their mind, body, and spirit simultaneously. Innermost balance is the key to becoming a successful fighter, my boy. The wheelchair-bound researcher said. I'm not expecting you to become a genius overnight, but I at least want you to obtain basic reading and writing skills. Does that sound fair? The monkey-tailed boy couldn't help but agree with what Xavier told him. Everything he just mentioned sounded like the type of person his grandfather was and then some. Yeah. When you put it like that, I guess it doesn't sound too bad. Plus, most of your education will be centered around embracing your mutant abilities and identity. And to do that, you must spend some time training in the mansion's danger room. The name of this room caught Goku's attention almost immediately. His tail was even swishing about like a curious, excited puppy. Danger room? What is that? It's something my dad cooked up back in the day. Considering how strong you are, you're definitely gonna get a kick out of it. Bulma playfully remarked. She then winked at him and held the door open for Professor Xavier. After he wheeled himself in, he quickly led her and Goku to the mansion's west wing. There, a metal door labeled Danger Room in bold red letters could be seen. Dad always was a little too on the nose with these things. Bulma quipped. Xavier ignored her and proceeded with his own, more detailed explanation. Now listen closely, Goku. The Danger Room, as the name so aptly implies, is dangerous. I'll be testing your strength, speed, and endurance via its many traps and pre-installed weaponry. This will show me if you're ready to fight Magneto or any other mutant that may pose a substantial threat to the world. Goku took a minute to process this description before nodding in understanding. Sounds good to me, Professor. How do I start? Just enter that door and wait for my instructions. Ms. Brief and I will be monitoring your progress through the control room located above it. As instructed, the boy stood in front of the entrance, causing it to automatically open in the form of an X. He blinked a few times in surprise before taking a deep breath and entering the danger room. The door then sealed shut behind him. Afterwards, Professor Xavier and Bulma went up a ramp leading to the control room. It was a circular laboratory built into the danger room's ceiling that included various computer monitors and control panels. It also had large glass windows that allowed Xavier to see exactly what was going on down below. The symbol for Capsule Corp could be seen on a few of the computers, much to Bulma's clear lack of surprise. I'm guessing Dad couldn't help but trademark his technology, huh? Xavier shrugged. I simply agreed to give credit where credit was due. He looked down to see an awe-struck Goku curiously titling his head from side to side. Although it was only a large silver dome at the moment, the boy was impressed by its advanced technology, nonetheless. Xavier admired the boy's innocence, but a part of him felt concerned by it. He wondered how long it would take for Magneto or someone equally dangerous to quash that childlike naivety forever. Are you ready, Goku? He asked through the control room's intercom. I think so. Good. Then let us begin. Xavier replied. Activate the laser rifles, Bulma. Laser rifles? Already? Goku's already proven himself against Sauron, so a few lasers may as well be child's play for him. I simply wish to test his maneuverability and speed against multiple opponents, rather than just one. Bulma still felt a little concerned for Goku's safety, but in the end, she complied with Xavier's orders and activated the first obstacle. If you say so, Professor. She typed a few commands into the control panel, bringing out guns that snaked their way out of the walls and ceiling. They all fired red lasers at Goku, much to the boy's chagrin. Yikes! Goku yelped. They're all over the place. Taking note of the lasers' movements, Goku somersaulted and flipped between them at faster than average speeds. They tried to shoot at him before his feet even hit the ground, but he was simply moving too fast. He even managed to hide behind one rifle and trick another into destroying it. He missed me. He kept dodging each laser with ease until, finally, there wasn't anything left to fire at him. They were either damaged beyond repair or ran out of energy. Well, that was pretty fun. Goku chuckled. His two friends were both greatly impressed by the mutant martial artist's performance. Xavier, in particular, seemed pleased by how fast Goku managed to both think and move in combat. Perhaps he could have moved just a tiny bit faster, but it wasn't a bad first attempt. Not bad at all, he murmured. Now, let us see if his strength is just as promising. With the simple push of a button, a part of the ceiling descended onto Goku's body and attempted to crush him. Look alive, Goku! The next part of your training is about to begin, Xavier advised with caution. There won't be any time to mess around with this one. Goku, surprised by this obstacle, lifted up his arms and held the metallic press back as much as possible. Ugh! So heavy! He clenched his teeth and, with immense difficulty, kept holding it in the air. His muscles were practically screaming in pain, but any resistance would result in his imminent death. Bulma could only watch this scene in horror. Professor Xavier, isn't he? This is a little extreme. Goku's only 12 years old, for crying out loud. Any normal kid would have been flattened by now. Even Xavier himself didn't expect the boy to be in so much pain. Goku was still clearly determined to keep going, however, so he didn't have any reason to end this session. Yes, but Goku isn't a normal boy. He's a mutant and physically powerful one at that, he noted. Let us wait and see what he does, Bulma. Your concern is warranted, of course, but I don't think Goku feels that same way about this situation. The blue-haired girl leaned closer to the window so she could keep a proper eye on Goku. Little by little, the young warrior managed to lift the hydraulic press further away from his head. He went from crouching down on his knees to standing up completely straight and tall in mere minutes. Ugh! Come on! I can do this. Keep going, Goku. All you need to do is push this press back into the ceiling and then you'll be done. Your endurance is already more than impressive. Xavier telepathically cheered. It's your superhuman strength that you need to show off now. Easier said than done, Professor. I'm trying. Goku groaned. Just as it seemed like Goku was about to buckle under pressure and give up, a white aura of energy surrounded him. This energy enhanced his strength significantly, giving him the boost necessary to push the press all the way back into the danger room's ceiling. Hi! The press powerfully smashed into the ceiling, causing the control room's panels to short-circuit and emit small sparks of electricity. Bulma had to leap out of her chair to stop herself from getting electrocuted or worse. Gee, good thing that didn't touch my hair. She stammered in nervousness. Back in the danger room, Goku took short, ragged breaths with a small grin on his face. He looked completely exhausted. Did you see that, Professor? I did it. The boy then dropped down and fell unconscious. Goku! Both Professor Xavier and Bulma cried in unison. They deactivated the control room's current functions and went straight down to the danger room to check on Goku. To their immense relief, the boy was only snoring away in a deep, yet peaceful sleep. Perhaps I did go a little too far with that last obstacle. Bulma crouched down and gently picked the boy up in her arms. A little bit of drool trickled out of his mouth, but she tried her best to ignore it and not wince from disgust. You think? If any more time passed, Goku could have been turned into a monkey-tailed pancake. Xavier slightly bowed his head in shame. I realize that, yes. That was short-sighted on my part, and I apologize, he said. But even in spite of that possibility, Goku still prevailed and pushed the hydraulic press back. His strength, I now realize, is more than just impressive. It's extraordinary. Don't you mean extraordinary? He, the professor deadpanned and didn't laugh along with her. Oh, lighten up. It was a clever play on words. Bulma huffed. Though, all jokes aside, Goku's a pretty tough kid. Can you imagine how strong he'll be when he's older? That Magneto jerk won't even know what hit him. Such a possibility is precisely why I'm glad I found him before Magneto did. Goku might be the key to preventing his cataclysmic wish from coming true. Xavier assumed. However, at the same time, I know that Goku alone won't be enough. He'll need peers his own age to train and fight with, and that's where your X-Men idea comes in, right? Bulma asked. Exactly. Looks like Goku's going to be their fearless leader then. Wonder how that's going to pan out. Bulma giggled at such an idea. No, Xavier shook his head. After taking some time to think about Goku's strengths and past experiences, I don't believe he has the intelligence necessary to lead an entire team. Maybe lead certain missions here or there, but not the X-Men in its entirety. He's far too immature, naive, and kind-hearted for that position. The professor's honesty was brutal, yet hard to argue against. Fair point. Leaders do always have to make the toughest decisions, whether they be good or bad. I don't think Goku could even decide what he'd want to eat for dinner, honestly. Bulma joked, but in a semi-serious manner. Even back in the Savage Land, as much as I hate to think about it, Ka-Za was considered Lord of the Jungle while Goku was just his close ally and friend, I guess. Correct. Goku has lived most of his childhood alone, so it wouldn't be wrong to assume that he values independence, rather than staying in one place. Xavier stated matter-of-factly. It's far from my intention to keep Goku cooped up in this mansion, but he will, at one point, need to learn how to work as a team and family. Bulma glanced at Goku's sleeping form and smiled. I think the poor kid needs something like that. I can't even imagine how lonely he must have been when his grandpa died. Lonely are the hunted, Ms. Brief. All sorts of young mutants have felt alone and isolated in this world. He then sympathetically touched Goku's head and brushed away some of his black bangs. And by bringing these mutants together as X-Men, I hope to create a world where they'll never have to feel alone again. The paraplegic man took some time to think about this more ideal, utopic society before casting it aside. There was still a whole lot more work to do before such a peaceful dream could become reality. For now, though, let us give Goku some time to rest and recover from those injuries. I'll have my colleague, Moira MacTaggart, take a look at him once she comes over. All right then. Bulma held Goku securely in her arms as she and Professor Xavier walked back to the living room in relative silence. So, what is Dr. MacTaggart doing nowadays? I haven't seen her since she came to visit Capsule Corp a few years ago. Xavier lightly grinned with a twinge of sadness on his face. It was difficult to talk about Moira, given their past history together. She's currently running a mutant research center on Muir Island, Scotland. She also, however, agreed to be employed as this mansion's housekeeper not too long ago. He recalled. So, she'll be providing her own input and assistance on certain affairs my X-Men may deal with. Nice to know. It'll be good seeing her again. Bulma beamed. Yes. It will be, Xavier muttered to himself in thought. I'm sure she'll be quite impressed by your dragon radar as well. And the 3 Dragon Balls we currently have in our possession, now that I think about it. Bulma carkily wiggled her eyebrows. You think so? 'Cause I don't mean to brag or anything, but not just any typical Japanese girl could pull off a technological masterpiece like this baby. Yes, yes. Your intellect knows no bounds, Ms. Brief. Xavier sarcastically replied. They then placed Goku on the couch, wrapped a blanket around him, and waited for him to fully recuperate. After he'd get some much-deserved rest, Professor Xavier would move on to the next step of their expedition, and that step would involve locating new mutants through the use of Cerebro. The first of this group would be Jean Elaine Grey, a young telepath that he, in his humble opinion, would get along with Goku rather easily. They, after all, have both experienced loss at similar stages in their young lives. Some hours after his session within the hazard room, Goku sooner or later managed to wake up. The boy's eyes fluttered open as he yawned and tried to consider what passed off. He did vividly keep in mind lifting up a hydraulic press along with his arms, however the entirety after that moment became a blur. The pain which resulted from that exercising, but became now not. Looks like holding that issue hurt extra than I notion I would not flow any greater if I had been ye, kiddo. Your arms had been pretty banged up back there. Who? Goku regarded up to see who was speak me to him. It changed into a stunning, center-aged Scottish girl with short brown hair, a crimson collar shirt, and magenta dress. She additionally had a golden, fancy-searching necklace wrapped round her neck. She became presently sitting in a chair subsequent to the couch whilst drinking from a small cup of tea. Her blue eyes stared into Goku's with slight curiosity. Oh, hello. Are you a chum of the Professor's leave out? This is proper. Our call is Moira MacTaggart and I've been engaged as housekeeper right here through Professor Xavier. The female replied in a thick accessory. And part of that activity is taking care of his college students and making certain they're in tip pinnacle form. She then set down her cup and pulled out a bottle of ointment from her handbag. Now, maintain still, so I'm able to place a number of this on your hands. It will help with the soreness. She dabbed her hands into the bottle and rubbed it along Goku's shoulders. It stung before everything, however over time, he did start to sense a touch higher as promised. You know, you positive do communicate a bit humorous, woman. Even the professor doesn't he have as lots of an accent. He. Moira crossed her fingers in minor annoyance. I beg your pardon? I was born and raised in Scotland, lad. There may be not anything humorous approximately how I talk. She grumbled. Besides, it is an amazing impolite element to mention to a person trying to help you out, isn't he it? A boy your age must realize better than that. Goku bowed his head a bit in an apologetic way. Grandpa Gohan constantly did pressure how critical it changed into to deal with a woman would appreciate, in any case. Yeah, you are proper. Sorry for saying all that, Moira. It truly is Mrs. MacTaggart to you, Goku. She stressed with a playful wag of her finger. An apology time-honored. Charles has already informed me about your upbringing, so I apprehend. Just discover ways to be greater conscious of different cultures and we may not have any more problems, all right? Goku nodded his head. "'Kay then. I will attempt my excellent, Moira I imply, Mrs. MacTaggart. An attempt you'll." She rubbed the boy's injuries with a few extra ointment till, eventually, Goku regarded well-adjusted sufficient to walk round again. He smiled in relief and flexed his muscle tissues with caution. "All performed," Moira remarked. "Now, if you are not too tired, Charles and Bulma have lunch waiting within the spiky-haired toddler's eyes widened from utter shock and satisfaction. "Lunch is prepared." "Very well." Goku sprinted closer to the kitchen, leaving a barely seen trail of smoke in his direction. This caused Moira to blink a few instances and roll her eyes in enjoyment. Boys. Always looking for an impossibility to meet their empty stomachs. The boy ran into the kitchen, taking Bulma and Professor Xavier a bit by marvel as he pulled up a chair and began eating. He crammed all styles of delicious food into his mouth without even trying to mention hi there or take a breather. "Glad to hear you are returned to everyday." Bulma muttered. Goku nodded his head and said something that got here out as nearly whole gibberish. Professor Xavier sighed and shook his head. "Please do not speak together with your mouth full, Goku. I expect you to have a few manners in this house." He then beat on his chest to make certain the food went down well and, once it did, set free a happy sigh of comfort. He gave his buddies an enthusiastic thumbs up. "Sorry about that. I think I'm feeling better already. That bizarre, wet stuff Mrs. MacTaggart put on my arms truly did the trick." Bulma rested a hand below her chin and smirked. "Mrs. MacTaggart? Are you guys not on a first call foundation but or something?" "I informed him to name me that, Bulma. Don't be giving him a difficult time now." Moira spoke back. She then sat down at the kitchen desk and smiled at her telepathic accomplice. He would possibly need to take it clean for a while, Charles, but for the maximum component, the lad is perfectly satisfactory. Properly to pay attention, Moira. I significantly recognize your assist as constantly. Of path. What are friends for? Goku glanced from Bulma to Moira whilst quietly chewing on some more meals. So do you guys know every different too? For pretty some time, yes. RVE acknowledged Bulma due to the fact that she changed into your age, maybe even a touch more youthful. The Scottish geneticist responded. Her father, Dr. Short, has been a big supporter of my and the Professor's work. We wouldn't have completed almost as lots without him. And you are approximately to achieve even extra with my assist. This Dragon Radar here is most effective the start. Moira rolled her eyes. Looks as if your father's humbleness wasn't something he handed down to you. Bulma kicked back in her seat and snorted. She failed to admire the sarcasm laced in Moira's phrases one bit. HMPH. Properly, it is difficult to be humble when you're as stunning and intelligent as I am, Moira. I notion you'll be at the equal web page. When you're my age, infant, beauty is the least of your issues. She then regarded in the direction of Professor Xavier, gesturing to Bulma's handbag. Speak me of the Dragon Radar, you mentioned which you controlled to find 3 Dragon Balls, accurate? Listening to this, the blue-haired female dug via her bag, setting the 2 celebrity, for superstar, and 6 big-name balls on the table. Each of them commenced to glow whilst positioned near every different. That is right, Moira. Goku had one returned within the Savage Land, in order that makes it the 1/3 Dragon Ball we have stumbled upon. Xavier calmly affirmed. Remarkable. As soon as notion they were simply a myth, but now I am so certain. Ought to they actually be able to summoning a wish-granting dragon when all 7 are collected, Charles? That I do now not realize for certain. What I do know, but, is that Magneto wishes his own wish to be granted. The telepathic mutant grimaced. And for the sake of keeping mutant human family members, we cannot manage to pay for to permit him prevail. At the point out of Xavier's former friend, Moira shook her head in developing dismay. However, how do we save you the sort of thing from taking vicinity? There is no telling how many mutants may have joined his cause at this factor. Alternatively, most effective have you ever, Goku, Bulma, and nicely, bet myself. This is why, my pricey Moira, we will be taking gain of Cerebro's abilities to gather other mutants who can also agree to enroll in our little team. Xavier assured her with a small grin. And the first on that listing may be our very personal telepath, Jean Grey. Goku tilted his head to the side. It changed into a unique sounding call. Jean? Who is that? Moira's eyes widened from shock. Considering the amount of trauma that bad woman has been through, she failed to assume him to say her this early on. Why certain, Charles? She may not be on top of things of her powers just yet. What if it is too soon? I understand your issues, Moira, but alas, our time to shape the X-Guys is limited. My intention is to help teach Jean in my view on the X-Mansion. He responded, except, with Goku right here, we a boy who may want to relate to her modern-day struggles higher than everybody. The monkey-tailed mutant pointed at himself in confusion. Me? Are you certain, Professor? I am greater than positive, yes. Similar to what you've been via whilst your grandfather passed away, Jean has skilled the loss of a close buddy. And that experience has affected her intellectual health more than you could in all likelihood believe. Goku grimaced. If Jean's pal turned into across the identical age, he ought to sincerely apprehend why she'd be devastated via her death. Being a telepath could have made the situation even worse for her too. He didn't pretty understand all of this mutant stuff simply yet or how it worked. However, nonetheless, he still wanted to assist Jean in any way he should. The boy then crossed his fingers and nodded. Properly, if she without a doubt is simply as sad I was while Grandpa died, then I bet I'll strive my satisfactory to cheer her up. It is better than doing not anything at all, my boy. Xavier wheeled himself around to have a look at his antique pal. Do you mind taking care of the mansion even as we're long past, Moira? The 3 people may not be lengthy. Moira rolled her eyes. As though I have a desire. Simply strive now not to put too much stress at the lady, okay, Charles? It's the final issue she needs to cope with proper now. Joining my X-Men is to her advantage, Moira. As it might be for all young mutants I wish to assist one day. He then quietly motioned for Bulma and Goku to exit the kitchen with him. Earlier than they may go away, the younger martial artist waved again at Moira and smiled from ear to ear. CYA later, Moira I imply, Mrs. MacTaggart. He. She awkwardly repeated this gesture and then rested a hand beneath her chin in concept. She commenced to marvel if Goku actually turned into what Jean wished right now, a near pal who could assist fill the void left behind via the one she misplaced. Think RLL should be patient how matters play out. She then took another sip from her tea and prepared to run a few errands touching on the X-Mansion. A couple of minutes later Bulma, Goku, and Professor Xavier all went outside to similarly plan their journey to Jean Grey's domestic in Anandale-on-Hudson, the Big Apple. The professor explained that she was the daughter of an instructor named John Gray, who studied history at Bard College, and his spouse, Elaine. She also had an older sister named Sarah and some different siblings who currently lived someplace else. Bulma frowned. So why do I should come exactly? Trying to find Dragon Balls is more my distinctiveness than, you recognize, assisting a telepathic girl kind out her problems. Whilst dealing with an opponent as risky as Magneto, Bulma, searching for the remaining Dragon Balls 1T be nearly sufficient. We're going to want younger mutants like Jean and Goku to help fight for them. I imply, Goku seems pretty freakishly strong already, Professor. He did take down that Sauron creep all by himself. Professor Xavier's expression ever so slightly darkened. He glared over at Bulma in annoyance and momentary frustration. Each of their powers pale in comparison to Magneto's capabilities, Ms. Short. He is a mutant blessed with peak energy, intelligence, ingenuity, and, peculiarly else, in joy. Goku desires a long way greater than just himself to ever think about preventing him. I have attempted and did indeed quell his insanity in many instances earlier than he then gestured to his legs. An appearance wherein that got me. Bulma gulped a touch. Forget about I said something then. As they spoke, Goku looked around the X-Mansion's the front yard to and fro. His tail twitched approximately in newfound curiosity. How are we getting to Jean's house, anyway? Maybe with Bulma's flying gadget once more? That might not be essential. The Grey residence is only a 2-hour pressure from right here. We will be taking my car this time. Your car? Parked someplace near the Institute's the front entrance became a black Rolls-Royce. It became pretty costly looking and had tinted darkish windows to assist conceal its passengers from view. Who? Fancy. A bit 2A82E8A for E179E54BKX0423C bit 2 for my tastes. Bulma muttered aloud. That's just my fashion of automobile, Ms. Brief. Professor Xavier replied with a small shrug. And certainly yours as well given that you will be chargeable for riding us there. Oh man. But why do I have to? Bulma then glanced down at Xavier's legs and awkwardly bit down on her decreased lip. For a person of her mind, she truly needed to discover ways to study the room. Oh proper. I will insert the guidelines into my GPS, so do not worry too much approximately that element. Once the professor becomes successfully located into the automobile, Bulma were given into the driver's seat and waited for Goku sit down. Lamentably, the boy did not recognize his own strength and wretched the door take care of open as hard as feasible. This precipitated it to be quite flung off its hinges, much to Xavier's horror. Open it lightly, my boy. Gently. Oops. My awful, Professor. Goku then hopped into the back seat and, notwithstanding Xavier's instructions, slammed the door close without tons restraint. The terrible man should have sworn he heard a number of the window's glass start to shatter as a end result. Sorry again. The mutant telepath exasperatedly slumped down in his seat while Bulma tried her fine not to giggle. We really want to get that strength of yours under control afterwards. Bulma pulled the auto out of the X-Mansion's the front backyard and began riding towards Anandale-on-Hudson. It'd handiest take a relay of minutes for Goku to fall fast asleep, either due to hunger, boredom, or someplace in between. A few hours later they persevered to force via a calm, as an alternative peaceful subdivision until, sooner or later, the grey circle of relatives' residence had been found. It became positioned 50 miles due northwest of the X-mansion, so the trip might have been an awful lot longer if no longer for Bulma's using competencies. Granted, she almost gave Xavier a coronary heart attack after taking a few sharp turns here and there, but they nevertheless were given there in a single piece, nevertheless. Goku, in the meantime, persisted to notice logs within the backseat of the 16YR vintage scientist parked Xavier's Rolls-Royce across the road from the Greys' home. It became a slightly larger than common, tail building with a pink roof, a driveway main into a fixed of garage doors, and more than one tree strewn throughout the front backyard. Via all bills, it changed into as ordinary as a suburban household will be in the one's days. However, appears will be deceiving. Jean Grey, in the end, wasn't he an ordinary girl by using any method, and she herself would come to understand that at some point. Xavier just hoped John and Elaine would be able to part with their daughter so soon. Searching over at Goku's drowsing shape via the review replicate, the mutant professor grimaced and dispatched out a mental transmission through his mind. We're right here, Goku. Wake up! The boy immediately fluttered his eyes open and let loose a noisy, almost obnoxious yawn. He then pressed his face against the window to get a better take a look at the house. Wow! It is an entire lot bigger than I predicted. Sure. Jean's father makes a decent amount of cash working at Bard University, so a domestic this size is regular for him. Xavier responded. He then cautiously glanced lower back at the boy. By using the way, I advise you hide your tail for now. The Greys, like the majority, are not used to our kind but are right. Purpose we're mutants and they are now not. I getcha. Once they got out of the car, Goku did some thinking and decided to wrap the monkey tail round his waist like a belt of a few kind. He had never worn it like that ahead, yet, for a few purpose, it nearly came certainly to him. Bulma smiled. Appropriate concept. A hairy belt's nevertheless going to look a bit strange, but better than nothing, I guess. Thank you. My tail simply did it on its personal for some purpose. Now not positive why, even though. Xavier narrowed his blue eyes in puzzlement. For a mutant boy his age, this motion changed into a bit surprising. Atypical. Possibly his tail acted on intuition alone. Figuring out no longer to reside on that particular incident for now, Xavier wheeled himself close to the front door with Goku and Bulma in tow. He may want to nearly experience the bad mind emanating from Jean's thoughts, even at a big distance away from her. It seemed that she was nonetheless traumatized by means of her adolescent's pal's demise. He sighed to himself and lightly knocked on the door. After some moments, adults, John and Elaine Grey, replied it. John became a center elderly guy with inexperienced, receding black hair and a mustache of the equal color. He presently, in that second, wore a brown sweater and blue denims. His spouse, Elaine, had blue eyes, strawberry blonde hair, and wore a pair of extensive rimmed, white spectacles. Her outfit specifically comprised of a light blue collared shirt and dress pants. Her crimson lips etched into a grin upon seeing Professor Xavier come to pay another go-to. John almost let loose a noticeable sigh of alleviation as properly. Ah, Professor Xavier. What a nice surprise. The person exclaimed. He was smoking from an A82E8A4E179E54BKX0423C-B2 pipe while speak me. You've come to check up on Jean once more, I count on. You count on accurate, Mr. Grey. How is your daughter doing? Has she made any more tries to speak at the same time as I was away? Elaine shook her head in developing sadness. It seemed like she might burst into tears any second now. I cannot say she has, Professor. It's been 3 years given that Annie Richardson's loss of life and Jean nevertheless hasn't moved on from it. Occasionally I ponder if she'll ever cross lower back to the manor she was. After rubbing her eyes, she realized there had been different human beings accompanying Professor Xavier. She apologetically smiled at them. Oh, where are my manners? I did not even ask in your names, youngsters. Bulma with courtesy bowed her head, as was normal in her United States. It is no hassle in any respect, Marem. My call is Bulma short. My father is an old friend of the Professor S from Tokyo, Japan. She then jerked her thumb over on the spiky-haired 12YR antique staring into area next to her. And this little goofball here is Son Goku. You can say he am Professor Xavier's most recent student at his Institute for Gifted Kids thing. John quirked a brow. Component? Goku crossed both fingers in the back of his head and toothily grinned. Good day. First class to meet you, men. Properly, aren't you just a little ball of energy? Elaine giggled while crouching all the way down to Goku's degree. Would you like something to eat? I'm positive why all had an extended power getting right here. Food sounds, live focused, Goku. Recollect what we came here for. Xavier said telepathically. The boy then slumped his shoulders in defeat and took a look around the front yard. At the same time as he did that, Xavier cleared his throat and darted his eyes from John to Elaine in brief succession. I admire the hospitality, Mrs. Gray, but for Jean's benefit, I would prefer to get instantly right down to commercial enterprise. The faculty, Bulma noted, is absolutely something I believe could assist your daughter in a number of approaches. Do you thoughts if we discuss more about it, Inna? John and Elaine exchanged apprehensive seems with one another, however ultimately established this request. Considering how beneficial Xavier's treatment have been those past years, they had no cause to doubt him or his partners. Of course. Make yourselves at home. John insisted with a heat smile. Thank you. Afterwards, the Grey-S led Professor Xavier, Bulma, and Goku into their home. The first factor they saw turned into a large living room with a television set, more than one chairs, lamps, dressers, and some closets hooked up into the wall. There was additionally a staircase leading to up to each person's bedrooms, which include Jean S and her older sister, Sarah S. Earlier than they could get comfortable, Xavier rested a hand on Goku's shoulders as a signal for him to wait a second. Where is Jean right now, anyway? Studying possibly? Elaine's eyes barely drooped. She typically sits via herself inside the backyard in recent times. Said it continues her far away from any intrusive mind that could pop up. I see. Goku is around the equal age as her supply or take, so he could give the woman some enterprise at the same time as we speak. The boy felt positioned immediately. He didn't know if maintaining him on my own with this type of sad, reserved character will be the first-rate concept. Talking to women become tough enough as is. Gee. I'm not sure if I ought to. I might recognize it if he did, Professor. Just no funny commercial enterprise round my daughter, okay? I was a 12YR antique too once. John warned with an accusative point of his finger. No telling her any jokes then, huh? Bet this is satisfactory with me. Jean's father blinked a few times in disbelief. He simply watched the boy head over to his outside without pronouncing any other phrase. He did recognize what I meant with the aid of humorous commercial enterprise, right? I doubt it, Mr. Gray. That kid's too innocent for his very own properly, Bulma gently chuckled. Should be how he was raised or something. Mrs. Gray felt relieved listening to about the boy's naive nature. It became the all of the data she had to recognize that Jean changed into secure in his agency. I see. Then whoever raised him must have been a real gentleman, I wager. Xavier closed his eyes, reminiscing about the many beyond encounters he had with Gohan. That an extra, Mrs. Gray. That and a lot more. In the outdoor, Goku exited the residence' back door to find another backyard filled with patches of grass, bushes, and a few stray timber. There, he noticed a 13-12 months vintage Jean Grey laying down at the lawn with a deep frown on her face. It was almost without emotion, having a profound unhappiness to it that couldn't be put into easy words. She had inexperienced eyes, purple lips, and long, flaming purple hair that went right down to her shoulders. Her outfit changed into constituted of an inexperienced jacket with a yellow undershirt and blue pants with tennis footwear overlaying her feet. The boy felt a piece taken aback through her appearance, but it wasn't enough to have a whole lot impact on him. With an extensive smile on his face, he slowly walked over to Jean's resting area with none regarded hesitation. Hello. You're Jean, proper? HM? Jean sat up from her spot at the lawn to look at Goku's form and thoughts. She had by no means seen this boy earlier then, but he felt warm and alluring to her in a few manner. Such tremendous feelings had been written all over his face too. Sure, it truly is my call. Who are you? And why are you at my residence? Goku stuck onto the apprehension in Jean's tone, so he kept calm and tried his nice now not to frighten her similarly. The name is Son Goku, however you may name me Goku for short. First class to fulfill YA. He beamed. I simply came here with Professor Xavier. He is speaking along with your mother and father proper now. Jean became a chunk much less on area after listening to this data. The professor? Then which means you're like me, proper? A mutant or anything he referred to as it. Yep. Nevertheless don't know what any of it manner yet, however with this tale of mine, I bet I can't be whatever else. The female's green eyes widened. Tail? Oh shoot. I was speculated to maintain that secret. Do not tell the professor I stated whatever, okay, Jean? Goku's over-exaggerated response made Jean do something she hasn't finished in a long time, snigger. She gently giggled, adjusting her position inside the grass to get a more in-depth observe Goku and his monkey tail. I used to be thinking why that belt became so furry. Hee. She said. However, do not worry. Your secret is secure with me along with all people else. The redhead then sighed forlornly, an awful lot to Goku's confusion. Her temper become almost too erratic to be considered everyday, from his angle. What do you imply all of us else? Professor Xavier advised me that I'm a telepath. I can hear all people's private thoughts unexpectedly, now and again to a degree where I cannot even pay attention myself, assume or realize who I even am anymore. Jean explained in a somber tone. She then ever so barely brushed her purple locks to the aspect. The professor's taught me how to shut those mind out, however controlling my powers is still hard for me. It's been that way due to the fact that I noticed what took place to my pal a few years ago. You imply when she died? Jean glanced over at him in wonder. You realize about that? The professor instructed me. I do not know too much approximately at all who your pal was, but I do realize how it feels to lose someone close to you. Goku somberly proclaimed. I misplaced my grandpa whilst I was 6. He turned into the best-owned family I ever had. I'm so sorry. That have to have been painful. She whispered. Should I see it? See it? What do you suggest? I imply, look at your thoughts and reminiscences of that day. It assist me cope with the ache a bit extra if I have someone else I can percentage it with. Goku paused for a moment. Thinking about their similar instances, he meant that Jean studying his thoughts would not be all that horrific. Even he struggled to cope with Gohan's loss of life occasionally, so this revel in, despite the fact that weird, ought to help him as properly. He gently nodded his head in agreement. Okay, I guess you may, Jean. Thank you. It may not take long. I promise. With that being said, Jean rested her arms on the perimeters of Goku's face and commenced to pay attention. The two kids instinctively closed their eyes, creating some sort of sturdy mental rapport between them. Once their mind, emotions, and memories were connected together, Goku saw imaginative and prescient from 3 years ago take region earlier than his very eyes. Jean's 10-year antique friend, Annie Richardson, was seen walking in the direction of a frisbee on the road. The two girls had been playing seize with it inside the front backyard. I will get it, Annie, wait. Take a look at for vehicles first. Jean's cries, unluckily, fell on deaf ears. Regardless of her mother's earlier warning, approximately their subdivision having a blind curve where drivers couldn't see where they were going, Annie's frame collided with an incoming automobile. She turned into flung into the air like a rag doll and landed on the grey household's front backyard. Annie! Annie! Mother! Mother, come short! Annie's been harm real bad. Goku had the same look of horror as Jean did again then. Annie's legs and arms had been twisted at grotesque, not possible angles that could not be repaired without heaps upon heaps of surgery. No matter being sopping wet in pools of her very own blood, the girl was, by using a few miracle or curse, still alive. Blood persevered to trickle down her arm as she shakily reached out for Jean's hand. Jean helped me with tears in her eyes. The redhead cradled Annie in her fingers. Goku ought to tell the lifestyles become draining from her eyes. It is okay, Annie. Mother S calling an ambulance. It is going to be right here quickly. I harm hard to respire. Am I gonna die? Suddenly, upon making contact with Annie's paws and skin, Jean's mutant capabilities woke up, giving her the threat to pay attention. The demise woman's mind. Goku failed to understand what became occurring, but they were presently surrounded by an impenetrable void of darkness. Among those shadows, Annie's glowing soul self presided. Jean tried to shield this projection of her body from any similarly harm. However, regrettably, those attempts were futile. Her best buddy's soul self vanished, leaving Jean on my own to keep empty air in her fingers. Annie, her mind was then snapped again to reality. In the organization of some adults, Jean determined herself preserving Annie's corpse in her palms. Part of her appeared to die with the poor brown-haired woman. It was a haunting second that she couldn't even cry over. Emptiness changed into all she should feel upon looking down at Annie's lifeless face. Jean, in the meantime, noticed the entirety from Goku's transformation right into a massive, monkey-like monster and the subsequent murder of his very own grandfather through it. She ought to feel the ache, suffering, and rage going through the boy's thoughts while it took place, but Goku, by some means, had no reminiscence of ever-present process one of these exchange. While this power of his changed into horrifying, she nonetheless felt sympathy for Goku, although the two of them were kindred spirits in a way. As mutants, they were each born with powerful capabilities that they had no real manage over. The principal distinction became that she had a circle of relatives to depend on, even as Goku, unluckily, did not. Perhaps Professor Xavier hoped to exchange that with his tutelage. With their darkest moments shared with each other, Jean removed her fingers from his head. They both took some time to respire and compose themselves. Goku had damaged out into a cold sweat whilst Jean, in assessment, felt clean tears trickle down her cheeks. Well, that turned into an revel in. Are you okay? Jean, triumph over with emotion, jumped up and hugged Goku for dear life styles. It became the maximum emotion she's proven in pretty a long term. The boy didn't know what to do in this case, so he just gently patted her again. I must be asking you that. You've gone through a lot in this kind of brief time, the lady choked out. Thank you for displaying me what occurred. It is no hassle. Grandpa would not want me to mope and cry over his dying. Besides, he always taught me to live life to the fullest and get as robust as viable. Jean nodded while burrowing her face into Goku's shoulder. That changed into recommendation. She wouldn't thoughts following as nicely. In any case, she had modified quite a piece because Annie's coincidence befell. He seems like a wise guy. Yeah, he changed into, Goku affirmed. He then awkwardly tapped on the 13-year-old's shoulder. You could allow cross of me now, Jean. Oh. Right. She then ended their embrace while darting her green eyes to the facet in embarrassment. His frame felt truly soothing to her, however she, of direction, wouldn't say this kind of issue out loud. So any idea what that darkness in Annie's mind turned into? I'm no longer positive. Again, whilst it took place, it felt like I was demise along Annie. So I expect the darkness turned into demise itself. Yeesh. That is kinda morbid. Goku glowered even as swishing his tail from side to side. It's sad that your pal had to go out that manner, however I'm happy you're still alive, Jean. And maybe Annie, anywhere she ended up, is too. Jean wiped a few stray tears from her eyes. I hope you are right, Goku. He. I realize I am. Now, do you want to take a look at on Professor Xavier, Bulma, and your mother and father in her? They're talking approximately a few critical stuff in there. We want to concentrate in. After years of ultimate herself off from different people, Jean stood up straight and gladly typical Goku's invitation without argument. Sure. I might like to. Exceptional. Allow us pass. The two kids then walked inside together. Their appearance caught absolutely everyone, especially her dad and mom, by way of wonder. It become uncommon for them to peer Jean appearance so energetic nowadays. Jean, sweetie, are you okay? Is whatever bothering you? Elaine asked in challenge. I am quality, Mom. I was just talking with Goku. The mutant girl answered. He's kinda weird, however funny too. He. What's up? I am now not bizarre. Yeah, you are. Do not deny it. Bulma retorted with a sly grin on her face. Elaine and John exchanged weird appears with each other. Their daughter become not best smiling, but guffawing too. Anything Goku did have to have worked wonders for her emotional state. Guess that warning about humorous commercial enterprise without a doubt worked. Who could have idea? The grey patriarch mumbled underneath his breath. Professor Xavier discovered himself feeling pretty inspired to say the least. His speculation approximately Goku and Jean-S being capable of bond over their very own worrying childhoods was established, to nobody's marvel, correct? But her being capable of smile and communicate so overtly turned into an delivered bonus he did not count on to occur. The boy must have made an wonderful first influence. He smiled, gesturing to his students with one hand. As you can see, Mrs. Gray, Jean will suit proper at domestic with the Xavier Institute for Presented Youngsters. Speaking with peers her age is key to treating her trauma in a slow, wholesome way. Xavier defined. No longer to say that most of our guides are university degree, so you may not need to fear approximately Jean falling behind on her research. John rubbed his chin in uncertainty. This deal had all kinds of pros and cons to it. I do not know approximately this, Xavier. She's simplest 13 years antique and Westchester County is to date away. Elaine added with the preceding communicate she had with Goku in mind. Jean looked up at her mother and father with a pleading appearance in her eyes. Please, guys. I actually need to move. I suppose the professor could be capable of assist me greater than ever there. Elaine grimaced. But sweetheart, did we mention tuition comes with an unfastened scholarship? Bulma stated. On the slightest point out of the word, unfastened, John were given up from his seat and shook Professor Xavier's hand. You got yourself a deal then, Professor. We will allow Jean attend your institute or something you called it. John. What? We should be proud our daughter's winning that good of a scholarship. I sure am. Even as Elaine balked at her husband's behavior, Goku blankly tilted his head to the aspect in puzzlement. No longer certain what a scholarship is, but it's cool that Jean's coming with us. The redhead beamed and lightly hugged the boy's aspect one closing time before going for walks up the stairs. Bulma tried her great not to snicker seeing Goku's goofy reaction to that gesture. I will go present my matters. As Jean scurried over to her room, the redhead older sister, Sarah Gray, walked down the steps, looking surprised. She turned into a 14-year vintage lady with brief red hair, inexperienced eyes, and purple lips. She may want to in all likelihood bypass for Jean's equal twin if now not for their major age distinction and facial capabilities. Am I going crazy or did I see Jean smiling simply now? What is going on, Mom? It is extremely complicated, Sarah. We will give an explanation for greater once your sister's accomplished packing. Packing? Time surpassed till subsequently, Jean had completed packing all of her assets into multiple suitcases. Goku showed off his superhuman electricity by means of wearing this bags in every hand and piling it into the Rolls-Royce's trunk. He did a sloppy job organizing matters of route, but the Grey S had been nevertheless blown away, though. John even double-checked to look if his pipe became spiked or not. You may have been a chunk extra cautious with Jean's stuff, Goku. Bulma grumbled. I am certain it's pleasant. It is no longer like we are driving all day. The Japanese scientist then proceeded to bonk him on the head. Says the fellow who tossed the whole lot into the trunk all at once. There was possibly some fragile stuff in those suitcases, fool. Oh. What became that for? Jean nervously chuckled. Do not be too hard on him, Bulma. I will type through it all whilst we attain the school. If we even get there secure and sound, Professor Xavier sighed. With Ms. Brief's using skills, even I am uncertain. Bulma rolled her eyes. It was one flip, Professor! Permit it go already. Smiling on the 3S antics, Jean directed her attention closer to John, Elaine, and Sarah. Saying goodbye to they all was bittersweet, but she knew attending Xavier's school might be a good possibility for her. It might also permit Xavier to dispose of the psychic shields he positioned on her thoughts years prior. She gave each member of her family large hugs, however her mom's became, by a long way, the longest. Please call and write to us each week, okay, Jean? We like you a lot. I'm able to, Mother. I like you too, she replied whilst changing quick eye touch together with her older sister. And that I guess matters are gonna be a lot greater uninteresting without me round, Sarah. As always, little sister. I'll admit you giving her older sister one remaining hug. Jean took a deep breath and went to sign up for Goku inside the Rolls-Royce's backseat. Professor Xavier also idea it exceptional to soothe the grey circle of relatives' concerns one final time. I will keep you up to date on Jean's progress as soon as I will. She'll be in exact arms below my steering. I will promise you that plenty. Duly mentioned, Professor Xavier. I will hold you to that promise. Gratefully nodding his head, the mutant geneticist wheeled his way again into the car and gave Bulma the cue to drive away. They then parted from Annandale-on-Hudson and made their way again to the X-mansion with short haste. John Gray held onto his wife and daughter in disappointment. He was hoping Jean might be able to get the assist and steerage she wished at that college. Fortuitously, if Goku's influence changed into any indication, she would not be analyzing on my own either. I assume we will believe Professor Xavier, expensive. He is one of these kind, captivating guy. He has extra than simply charm, Elaine. Something about him offers a person a feeling of self-assurance in him. Nearly like he is aware of what you're wondering ahead. Sarah, alternatively, wasn't he nearly as passionate about the bald paraplegic as her dad and mom? She squinted her eyes and kept them focused on the Rolls-Royce at the same time as it drove away. I do not know. He kinda offers me the creeps. John and Elaine did not take this comment too critically, however. The three simply persevered to head approximately their day, questioning how Jean could do on her first day far away from their home. Later on, you have been raised in an area filled with dinosaurs. To help skip the time, Goku and Jean mentioned some beyond reports in their lives. The redhead already knew approximately Grandpa Gohan's martial arts skills thanks to their intellectual rapport in advance, but the savage island itself nevertheless felt too weird to be actual. She couldn't believe having to live there for 12 complete years like her fellow mutant did. Yep. An entire bunch of them. The monkey-tailed boy showed. I even saved Bulma from a guy who could turn himself into a pterodactyl. He was so horrifying searching that she peed her pants. Hee hee. Jean let out a little snigger. Hee hee. Clearly? He was that terrible, huh? Bulma slammed her foot on the accelerator and grew to become around to scream at Goku in outrage. I informed you no longer to talk about that, you snot-nosed little jerk. Professor Xavier, seeing another car heading towards them, rapidly shook her arm in worry. Lord in heaven. Eyes on the road, Miss Short. Ooh. I see it. She roughly veered their automobile to the right lane, causing many other drivers to beep their horns and, in some instances, flip her off. Xavier clutched his chest and took deep, ragged breaths. Are you all right, Professor? Jean asked. I may want to say yes to that query, my expensive, however I will be much higher as soon as we're again at the mansion. Talking of the mansion, what precisely will we be doing there? Training my telepathic and telekinetic abilities as a mutant? The female puzzled. She then rested a hand towards her cheek and appeared out the auto window. Due to the fact I'd as a minimum like to do a little form of reading in among all of that. Reading was generally what I did to deal with Annie's passing. Your teachers will need to come later, I am afraid. My precedence is making sure which you and Goku are geared up to convey more young mutants to our purpose. And the last Dragon Balls too, of root. Xavier explained in a grave tone. Dragon Balls? Is that what Goku's orange ball with the 4 red stars turned into? The professor raised his eyebrows. Xavier knew the kids had completed some sort of mental link in advance, but he did not know plenty how a lot facts Gene amassed from Goku's thoughts. It become not likely that he retained plenty know how approximately Magneto and his plans for the Dragon Balls, anyway. It really is accurate. We presently have 3 in our ownership and 4 left to find. The person telepath nodded. As for our cause in finding them, that clarification will come once we reach the mansion. I understand, Professor. Bulma appeared over at Jean through the review replicate and smirked. She then boastfully rested a unmarried give up her chest. Anyways, the rest of these Dragon Balls may be putty in our fingers, Jean. The only tool that can track them down became invented by using yours sincerely. Goku tapped his chin. Nicely, the handiest one which we recognize of what's that supposed to mean. Possibly the boy has a factor. There are quite some hyper-intelligent people on this international, Bulma. Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Hank Pym, and plenty of more than that. Xavier narrowed his eyes and clasped both hands together in curiosity. Who is to mention Magneto? Hasn't he already located his own way to locate the remaining Dragon Balls? He's quite the charismatic character, in any case. He should deliver any up-and-coming scientist to his side, even folks that as soon as labored for Capsule Corp. Possibly Bulma's skin surprisingly paled. She hated how logical Xavier's remark changed into. She did create the unique Dragon Radar of direction, but completely functioning knockoffs had been bound to manifest one way or every other. Its schematics, in truth, weren't all that complicate to duplicate and paste. For our sake and the relaxation of the arena let us wish Magneto hasn't he located that person yet. Then hope we will the relaxation of the drive over to the X-Mansion was uncomfortably silent going ahead. This silence, despite the fact that awkward, gave Xavier a while to ruminate over Jean's powers. He was relieved that Jean may want to only use primary psychokinesis along with her mind, due to the fact deep down, he knew something a long way more effective and terrifying might be stirring internal it. He made such an remark many years ago, whilst he confined her mind-reading competences to most effective one or human beings at a time. Those psychic shields would want to be removed in the end, though the professor simply hoped this entity, or exchange persona, did indeed manage to overpower Jean's unconscious. Thankfully, as a young 13-12 months antique female, there was none the less time for Jean to refine her gifts and become a telepath even more potent than himself sooner or later, and that possibility unnerved him to a few diploma. He did indeed wish to think what could take place if a mutant supremacist like Magneto bended Jean to his will, and used her powers for evil, with Goku's presence in her lifestyles, even though that day might, likely, by no means come to bypass. Their bond turned into already off to an amazing start. As a minimum, the end. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel for more.